Chapter 1152. Inside the woodshed. Yi sat on the bed and looked at the clothes on the table. These clothes were sent over by Gong Yu. When the time comes, I will be able to mix into the group of palace maids and serve food and wine. When that time comes, it will be my chance. I will not bear this crime. Even if I die, I will clear my name. Yi slowly laid down, took out a small mirror, and lightly stroked it. Right now, Ye won't use this to talk to me anymore. In his heart, does he just not trust me? Soon after, I took out that unfinished lollipop, took a look at it and put it back. Tomorrow, I am not a spy. Early morning. In the snowy northern Liangland, only Wushu Empire's sky was filled with warm sunlight. On this day, the sunlight was bright and beautiful, and all of the residents had a festive atmosphere. Most of the people even wore red clothes and celebrated this moment together. This was the grandest banquet that Wushu Empire had ever held since the founding of the empire. Most of the powers in the north had even gathered here, allowing everyone to see the weight of Wushu Empire. After all, people would only come if they gave them face. This Wushu Empire is truly extraordinary. 3 absolute palaces, sure, you said softly. That's right, a few months ago, we were still standing outside the city and almost died. The one who spoke was Broken Moon Valley's Xiang Liren. He was also one of the 3 survivors, and even now, he was still trembling with fear. Fan Jin stood at the side and sighed in his heart. If I wasn't smart that day, I probably wouldn't even be standing here. It is my honor to be invited here. Fan Jin said softly. Today will be one of the most unforgettable days of my life. The most unforgettable day would definitely be that day. It shocked me to the point that I was dispirited for a few days and had nightmares. The scene of me trembling while standing outside the city was still fresh in my memory. Supreme Fan Jin. A voice rang out behind Fan Jin. Fan Jin turned around and called out softly, "So it's Violent Wind Sect's Jiuming, long time no see." Violent Wind Sect was naturally a power from the ancient land, and they came here to join in the fun. This Jiuming had the appearance of a young man and seemed a bit flamboyant, which could be seen from his luxurious clothes. It was as if he was living in the countryside, making everyone worship him, but this Jiuming didn't have that kind of feeling. He didn't have that kind of feeling of being high and mighty. This Wushu Empire's people don't reveal any shock or fear when they look at me, as if they were looking at an ordinary person. He was too bold. Jiu Yang looked at Xiang Liren and Shi Yu, who were at the side. He did not care about them at all. Small sects like these could be dealt with a wave of his hand. On the other hand, he could not afford to offend Fan Jin. Fan Jin was only afraid of Wushu Empire. As for this 9 sons, he wasn't afraid at all. After all, he was someone who had half a foot in the honorable realm. Supreme Fan Jin, I feel that this voidless empire is exaggerating. Jiu Yang said calmly. It wouldn't be too much to address Fan Jin as a supreme. Fan Jin snorted coldly in his heart. He had the same feeling when he came here before. He had thought that this Wushu Empire was just a tiger on the outside. But who would have thought that their inner heart was even more terrifying than an evil dragon? In response to 9 sons' mockery, Fan Jin said indifferently, "Oh, you will know when the time comes." Shi Yu and Xiang Liren didn't say anything. If they had spoken nicely, they might have warned him, but since he was acting like a boss, they would have made him suffer. At that time, you will know how precious life is. Supreme Fan Jin, 9 sons sect leader. Right at this moment, another man walked over with a gentle smile on his face, appearing very approachable. This was the Twin Dragons Academy's headmaster, Baido. Sect leader Baido. Fan Jin called out softly. Shi Yu and Xiang Liren also called out. Baido, how do you feel about this place? Jiu Yang laughed softly with a mocking tone. Baidu swept his gaze across the surroundings and said with a smile, "This voidless empire is the most prosperous one I have ever seen. It is comparable to the Bright Mist communal country in the south. The Bright Mist communal country belongs to the deity institution. What does this voidless empire have?" Jiu Yang snorted softly. Actually, his heart was filled with jealousy. This voidless empire was indeed prosperous and orderly. Compared to his own territory, his territory was like a bandit's nest. Baidu didn't argue. Although it is a little prosperous, the guards and whatnot here are still lacking. Hearing Baidu's words, the three of them laughed in their hearts. To actually say that this place lacks battle prowess. Back then, the two of you weren't there. If you were, you would know what battle prowess is. You would be so scared that you would pee your pants. Baidu continued to speak. In this voidless empire, a mere prince is getting married, yet he actually called out so many people. It's truly a huge effort. If it wasn't for the fact that I had nothing better to do, I wouldn't have bothered to come over. Jiu Yang snorted coldly. Fan Jin originally wanted to remind them, but he decided not to. If the two of you want to court death, no one would blame you. I heard that Yuanyang Manor attacked Voidless Empire. Where did all these people go? This is truly strange. Jiu Yang asked curiously. Baidu opened his folding fan and said indifferently, "Who knows? Could it be that they were annihilated by this voidless empire?" Back then, there were only 3 people left alive. Lai Gu had originally wanted these 3 people to spread the news. In the end, these 3 people didn't even dare to mention it. They were so scared that they peed their pants. Maybe they went to another place to mingle around, who knows? Jiu Yang spread out his hands. It was good for them to change locations, lest they meet on the battlefield in the future. At this moment, Fan Jin said indifferently, "It is about time, we can enter the palace now." With Fan Jin as the leader, everyone nodded their heads. Other than these people, there were also some people from other empires who came, just that they didn't participate in their conversation. The wedding ceremony was naturally held outside of the palace, in the open. The wedding ceremony was similar to that day in the gods' realm, just that the venue and atmosphere were a bit more majestic, and there were all black armored warriors guarding the wedding ceremony. A red carpet extended from the palace entrance all the way to the main hall, and on both sides of the red carpet, there were warriors dressed in red armor. At the palace entrance, Zishan and Yuhua were both counting the number of people, making sure that no one sneaked into the palace. The main thing was to check if there was anyone who came to cause trouble. Because His Honor had specially instructed them to not let down their guard. The women from Voidless Empire are quite good-looking. Jiu Yang looked at Zishan and Yuhua and said softly. However, no matter how softly Jiu Yang spoke, Zishan and Yuhua were still able to hear what he said. Immediately, they looked towards Jiu Yang. Originally, Jiu Yang wanted to continue teasing Jiu Yang, but subconsciously, he was telling himself that it was better for him to remain quiet. Fan Jin, Shiyu, and Xiang Liren had seen Yuhua before, and she was standing on top of the city gate tower. This woman. I can't afford to offend her. Yuhua hurriedly lowered his head and walked into the palace. Baidu, who was at the side, saw Fan Jin lowering his head. Could it be that he dropped something? I hurriedly lowered my head and looked at it. Baidu lowering his head had saved my life. End of chapter. Chapter 1153. The guests entered the hall one after another, and the first thing they saw were 2 rows of red-armored warriors. The flags of the Voidless Empire were raised in their hands, and they were crossed together, not moving at all, giving off a feeling of iron and blood. They sure are putting on a show. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that I had entered some big event, Jiu Yang said calmly, a look of disdain in his eyes. However, Fan Jin did not dare to say anything. All he wanted to do today was to witness a grand spectacle. Perhaps it would be helpful to his cultivation base. Baidu didn't say anything. Actually, he couldn't be bothered to say anything. He felt that there was no need to. Since he had chosen to come here, there was no need to waste his breath. Nine Suns was here to seek excitement. On the long red carpet, there were 2 seats for the guests. There were names and numbers on them. You just had to follow the number on the invitation and take your seat. It was very convenient. Everyone gradually took their seats. At this time, the palace maids slowly walked in with wine. Amongst the palace maids, Yi was also amongst them, and she was currently holding onto a cup of wine. No one discovered Yi's existence, but Yi was determined to die today. Yo, there are so many beauties here. Nine Yang looked at Yi, who was leaning forward slightly, and was about to reach out and touch her. Sensing his intentions, Yi quickly retracted her hand. Hee hee. Jiu Yang laughed dryly, with a peculiar look in his eyes. If he went to those empires, he could have any woman he wanted. Those emperors would respectfully send their women to his room. Even those women had looks of pleading on their faces. To be able to serve me, the 9 Suns, is the good fortune you women have accumulated in your previous lives. Fan Jin was seated at the side and naturally saw Jiu Yang's actions. He could not help but say, "Sect leader Jiu Yang, you have to pay attention to your image. There are quite a lot of people here." Indeed, there were quite a lot of them. If it wasn't the emperor, then it was the boss. There were hundreds of them. Jiu Yang squeezed out a smile and said, "Supreme Fan Jin is right." With that, he fell silent. At this time, a figure slowly walked out of the palace, wearing a festive red robe. This was the Blood Demon, the master of ceremonies today. Although the Blood Demon had lost all of his strength, his aura was still there. Under such a grand occasion, he did not have any stage fright at all. He seemed very at ease. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome everyone who has come to attend His Highness' wedding today. It is a joy to have friends coming from afar. Blood Demon's words were light and powerful, but his last words carried a deep threat. Everyone present was smart and understood this principle. Those who came with good intentions would get good food and good wine. If they came with bad intentions, then don't blame them. What awaited them was only deep despair. This kind of despair would make you wish you were dead. Fan Jin was very knowledgeable and immediately applauded. As soon as Fan Jin clapped, everyone else followed suit. It was a very lively scene. Everyone has come from afar. His Majesty has prepared some small programs for all of you to enjoy. Blood Devil waved his hand and then retreated. The people sitting below were very curious. The Emperor hadn't arrived yet, but the entertainment program had already begun. How strange. However, just as everyone was feeling puzzled, a strange aura came from the sky. Everyone looked up at the sky. A black cloud slowly floated over from afar. When Fan Jin saw the black cloud, his expression froze. This is... Baidu's eyes glazed over in disbelief. Black rainbow cloud. Why would this thing appear here? Even Jiu Yang was stupefied. Sure, you showed that she was new and asked curiously, "What is this black rainbow cloud?" Xiang Liren, who was at the side, said faintly, "Black rainbow cloud, it is actually not a cloud. It is a type of rare prehistoric ferocious beast that looks like a cloud. According to legends, as long as one is enveloped by the black rainbow cloud, any living being will become a part of it. And the bigger the black rainbow cloud, the stronger it is. Even an overlord would be finished. Then, look at the size of this black rainbow cloud." Sure, you was a bit stupefied. This black rainbow cloud is about to cover the entire sky. This is too terrifying. Right now, Jiu Yang was already so shocked that he couldn't speak. After all, the black rainbow cloud had only appeared in books and had never appeared before. I didn't expect to actually see it today. However, here came the problem. This black rainbow cloud appeared. What is it for? What is it here for? Could it be that it is here to devour me? Everyone seemed to have thought of this and started to become nervous. However, Blood Demon's voice sounded, "Everyone, don't panic, this is just an entertainment program." Entertainment program? Who the hell would use a black rainbow cloud to liven things up? Aren't they crazy? This is a black rainbow cloud, not some random cat or dog that can kill people with a single word of disagreement. As the black rainbow cloud gradually floated over, everyone felt a sense of pressure. Gradually, the black rainbow cloud stopped and covered the entire sky of Wushu Empire. The originally sunny weather immediately turned gloomy. This caused the joyous wedding to feel a bit heavy. Even the people in the city were puzzled. Why did the black rainbow cloud cover up the sunlight? This isn't right. Just as everyone was puzzled, a crack could be seen appearing on the black rainbow cloud. Rays of sunlight could be seen passing through the crack and shining onto the entire Wushu Empire. This was a visual touch. Those rays of sunlight seemed to symbolize hope, and when the sunlight shone onto the ground, everyone felt breathtaking. It was too beautiful, causing people to be unable to shift their eyes away from it. The people in the city were also stupefied by this beautiful scene. Is this what hope is? It's so magnificent. A multicolored rainbow light suddenly appeared and spanned across the entire Wushu Empire. That beautiful rainbow light seemed to have formed a bridge. Is this another bridge of hope? It's so beautiful. It's too beautiful. It's too breathtaking. Everyone had never seen such a spectacle before, and today, their horizons have truly been broadened. That black rainbow cloud up there is not something that just anyone can invite, and right now, it is actually able to perform for you. This will definitely be recorded in the history books. Ong! A loud and clear roar rang out from afar. This roar brought along a strong pressure, and this pressure was comparable to that of the black rainbow cloud. Fan Jean suddenly stood up and said blankly, "This is the legendary red-feathered white tiger." What? This is a red-feathered white tiger. Jiu Yang cried out in surprise, and his gaze was filled with deep fear. Sure, you asked curiously, what is a red-feathered white tiger? Fan Jean said gravely, if there is something above a dragon, then it would be a red-feathered white tiger. Above a dragon. Sure, you revealed a look of astonishment. There is something above a dragon. However, sure, you immediately saw it. Sure, you suddenly stood up. This is really a dragon, but that is a tiger's head and a dragon's body, and it even has a pair of pure white wings. When those wings were spread out, they were actually as wide as the black rainbow cloud. Just how huge are those wings? Ong! The red-feathered white tiger that was at the front let out a roar, and the entire heaven and earth trembled. End of this chapter. Chapter 1154. When the people of the entire Voidless Empire saw this scene, their brains were all shocked. This was 2F** King terrifying, wasn't it? I have never seen such a huge creature before. Not only ordinary people, even Fan Jean had only seen it in a book, and it was only a few words about it. Jiu Yang swallowed his saliva, and his scalp went numb. Just what kind of empire is this? Just a black rainbow cloud is already enough to shock everyone. I didn't expect that red-winged white tigers would come again. An even more terrifying existence. And there are 3 of them. My God! Right at this moment, the 3 red-winged white tigers suddenly turned into dots of starlight and attached themselves to the layer of clouds. This made everyone feel as if they were looking at the stars in the night sky. So beautiful, to ordinary people, this is beautiful, but to those with strength, this is not beautiful. This is completely a type of panic. To actually be able to cause the red-winged white tigers to disintegrate. How is this possible? The powerful and terrifying ancient godly beast actually did this. This is unimaginable. I am definitely dreaming. Jiu Yang muttered. Baidu rubbed his eyes, seemingly unwilling to believe what was happening in front of him. An empire. To actually be able to bring out such a godly beast. This was something that could not possibly exist. Shi Yu and Xiang Liren finally knew that what they saw that day was just the tip of the iceberg. Perhaps, what they saw right now is just the tip of the iceberg. Fan Jin slowly sat down, his breathing a bit hurried. I didn't come here for nothing today. Although I only saw 2 rare beasts, it was a great help to my realm, and my horizons have been broadened by a lot. Yi, who was standing among the palace maids, was also incomparably shocked. Although she did not know what it was, the scene in front of her had already deeply attracted her. I feel that I am very small standing here, and I still have to explain myself face to face later on. Will these people listen to my explanation? I can't care so much anymore. Today is a rare opportunity. If I were to miss it, I would have to carry this infamy for my entire life. If I were to end it just like this, that would not be Yi Hua's style. Quickly look, what is that? Where? Above the rainbow light. Everyone stood up once again and looked at the end of the rainbow light. Some figures appeared, but these figures were not humans, and they were walking with 2 legs. As these things approached, everyone was puzzled. There were more than 100 people in the group, but they didn't look like humans. Because their heads grew on their chests, and they only had 2 legs, but no hands. It was very strange. The newbie Shi Yu asked curiously again, what species is this? I've never seen it before. Xiang Liren shook his head, indicating that he didn't understand either. Baidu asked curiously, Supreme Fan Jin, do you recognize these? Fan Jin considered himself to be knowledgeable, but when he saw these things, he was still dumbfounded. Jiu Yang, on the other hand, revealed an extremely terrified expression. His entire body was trembling as if he had seen a ghost. Sect Leader 9 Sons, do you recognize these species? Baidu could tell from 9 Sons' expression that he recognized them. Tiny beads of sweat appeared on Jiu Yang's forehead as he said in a fearful tone, I once heard my great master mention a legend. What legend? Fan Jin asked curiously. A very, very long time ago, there was a group of strange races. They were invincible, and wherever they went, nothing grew. Their heads grew on their chests, and they didn't have hands, but they had 2 legs. They had a powerful and enviable talent, immortality. Xiang Liren asked curiously, does this immortality refer to life or? They couldn't be killed. Jiu Yang added. Shi Yu was curious, since they couldn't be killed, why did this group of people disappear? I don't know. In the past, I thought my great master said it was just for fun, but today, I realized that it was true. These people were called black giants. Killing a supreme being was like killing an ant. Jiu Yang said blankly, suddenly feeling afraid. He had started to mock this place the moment he arrived at Wushu Empire. If those mocking words were known by others, wouldn't he be finished? Thinking of this, Jiu Yang broke out in cold sweat. He wasn't even a supreme being, and even if he was, he would be an existence that would tremble in fear just by sitting here. Over 100 black giants walked to the center of the rainbow and stopped, and something that made everyone confused happened. The black giants could be seen leaning backward slightly, and multicolored things suddenly shot out from their mouths. Biu, bang, bang, bang. These multicolored things were just like fireworks, and they blossomed beneath the clouds. It was so beautiful that it took one's breath away. These are really artificial fireworks, and they look just like bubbles. However, what everyone didn't know was that the things that the black giant spat out actually had very great destructive power. It was just that, for the sake of the show this time, the black giant's weapons were precisely their mouths. As long as they were to shoot at the same time, the defenseless Wushu Empire would be instantly destroyed. Brilliant fireworks blossomed beneath the black rainbow clouds. All of the girls were stupefied by this scene. If someone were to propose to them right now, they would definitely agree to it. This is too romantic. However, Fan Jean and the others finally knew. This was the effect of turning day into night. Let the black rainbow clouds come over and act as the night. Let the red-winged white tiger come over and act as the stars. Then, let the black giants that were terror-stricken come over and use their mouths to shoot fireworks. For these three formidable characters to gather together, just for this, just how much manpower and material resources were needed to accomplish this. These things were all found by Brett. As for how he found out about it, Yihua wouldn't ask about it. Yihua was only looking at the final result of the show. At the very least, up until now, he was rather satisfied. Brett was still very meticulous this time. Who was in the group looked at the magnificent fireworks and felt that it was so beautiful, so beautiful. I really want to engrave this moment deep into my mind. Furthermore, it would be great if Yi was by my side. Such a beautiful scenery, if I were to lie in Yi's embrace, how romantic would that be? I hope that I will have this chance in the future, but the prerequisite is that I have to be able to explain everything clearly today. The fireworks lasted for 10 minutes, and the black giants slowly left. As for where they went, no one knew, and no one dared to go and provoke them. Suddenly, a hollow yet sweet-sounding bell rang out, and it immediately made everyone feel relaxed and happy. Just by hearing the bell, one could tell that it was not an ordinary item. That is. Baido cried out in surprise when he saw the item that was walking over. Fan Jin's eyeballs were about to pop out. I am afraid that everyone knows about this thing, because it is written in the books. However, this thing is already extinct, and it can even be said that it no longer exists. However, this thing actually appeared today. The news sure you didn't ask anymore, because she knew about this thing. It is called Heavy Thunder. End of this chapter. Chapter 1155. This was a type of prehistoric divine beast that looked extremely similar to a stag. The only difference was the pair of horns. This was no longer a horn, but a type of medicine that could make people immortal. In order to achieve immortality, one had to become a supreme being. However, how many people were stuck at this stage and eventually died of old age? However, just a little powder from the pair of horns of Heavy Thunder could make people immortal. Although this fellow's attacks weren't that great, his horns were much more absorptive than the other three. After all, there was nothing more important than immortality. As long as he had enough time, it wasn't impossible for him to reach the supreme level. He was just afraid that he wouldn't be able to reach it even if he used up all the time. Fan Jean, for example. Although he was young, it was only an illusion created by magic. He wasn't really young. Everyone was staring at Heavy Thunder, wishing they could dig out its horn and eat it. That way, he would be able to obtain immortality and eternal youth. But everyone was guessing in their hearts. Just how much foundation did this Wushu Empire have? Was there anything even more terrifying? With these things, he could sweep across the entire Kangluo continent. At this moment, Ren Yao, who was standing far away, was also shocked when she saw these monsters. Just who is this His Honor? With such great power, he was able to take out these rare treasures. The subordinates were already used to this kind of pretentiousness. It was just that they would change it every time. Today, it was also a visual enjoyment. It was not completely pretentiousness, but it also seemed to have a little bit of life philosophy. It seems like His Honor has also comprehended a bit of the Great Tao. Enchanting gradually walked to the center. The bell on his ear stopped ringing. Everyone looked at Enchanting. What was he going to do? However, the heavy thunder hummed softly as if it was singing. Everyone's scalp went numb. They actually invited Enchanting to sing. He had seen amazing people, but he had never seen someone this amazing. Invincible. He was truly invincible. It was a wedding song, but most people couldn't tell what it was. Gradually, a beam of light suddenly expanded, illuminating the entire main seat. 5 figures appeared at the top of the black cloud. Everyone couldn't help but rub their eyes. Who were these people? It seemed so sacred and inviolable. Heavy Thunder stopped speaking and looked at the noble head below the figure. Even the black giant was the same. Everyone felt that, could this be the Emperor of Voidless Empire? At this moment, Fan Jin was clearly very excited. He was finally going to see the Emperor of Voidless Empire. He was finally going to see it. This would be the most precious moment of his life. Fan Jin was not the only one who thought this way. Everyone else felt the same way. They were all emperors, but to be able to do what he did was simply incomparable. The ones who appeared in the sky were, of course, Yi Hua and his 4 wives. Originally, Yi Hua wanted to come out in a more exciting way, but when he thought about how today was his little brother's wedding, he didn't want to steal his little brother's limelight. Thus, he decided to be a bit more low-key. If everyone knew that this was the result of keeping a low profile, then what would it be like to be high profile? Yi Hua brought along his 4 wives and slowly descended, and gradually, everyone was able to clearly see what was going on. All of them were stunned. This Wushu Empire's emperor is too good-looking, right? And the 4 women beside him, they were so beautiful that it was suffocating. Was she still a woman? How could she be so beautiful? Shiryu's current surprise was the most profound. It turned out that he was the one in the wheelchair. He was the emperor. Good heavens. And those women. Good heavens. It was them. Yi Hua was very satisfied with everyone's gaze. That kind of shock and fear, I have finally achieved my goal. However, until now, no one had come out to cause trouble. This was a little strange. Could it be that he was thinking too much? Be envious of me. My strength is something that you all are unable to imagine. My women are not people that you all can afford to provoke. Such outstanding women can only be enjoyed by me. Yi looked at the Empress who was beside Big Brother Emperor with a bit of envy. The Empress and the others are so beautiful, so dignified, and so imposing. I am completely unable to compare with them. How can I be Ye's wife like this? Gong Yu's temperament is much stronger than mine. Maybe Gong Yu is Ye's best choice, Yi Hua lightly sighed. Yi is currently looking for an opportunity. Right now, the dishes have not been served yet, and there are many guards in front of me. I reckon that before I can even rush over, I would already be caught. I have to wait until the dishes are served, Your Majesty. Long live. Long live. Long live. Fan Jin was the first to shout out. Following Fan Jin's shout, everyone came back to their senses from their shock and shouted out, Your Majesty. Long live. Long live. Long live. When that voice landed in Yi Hua's ears, it sounded so beautiful. It was just like the chirping of a sparrow, extremely pleasant to listen to. This is the benefit that comes from being powerful. If I am not powerful, I will only be bullied by them. And if I am powerful, they can only lower their heads and shout out, Long live, towards me. Yi Hua waved his hand and shouted out indifferently, Rise. Thank you, Your Majesty. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. This emperor is indeed not ordinary. Especially Jiu Yang, right now, he was already incomparably regretful. Just now, I even insulted the person who came. Seeing such a scene, a single sentence from the person who came would be enough to kill me. Everyone, are you satisfied with these little tricks? Yihua slowly sat down, while his 4 wives sat at his sides. Everyone didn't even dare to breathe loudly as they shouted out in unison, "Your Majesty is formidable." Yihua laughed lightly. Humans, this habit of bootlicking is really hard to get rid of. It's good that you are satisfied. Everyone slightly lowered their heads and laughed dryly. How can I not be satisfied? I am about to pee in my pants. Yihua waved his hand. The black rainbow cloud in the sky could be seen slowly leaving, and the starlight fused into the appearance of the red-winged white tiger and slowly flew away. Everything returned to normal, and the sunlight shone upon the entire Wushu Empire. It felt warm and comfortable. Let me invite my mother over. Yihua stood up and personally shouted out. Lu Jing's figure could be seen slowly appearing. Yi Yuanqing was supporting Lu Jing by the side, and Daji was also standing at the side to serve Lu Jing. The 3 of them slowly walked out. Everyone hurriedly shouted out, "Greetings, Empress Dowager." Lu Jing's makeup today made her look very imposing, revealing the might of an Empress Dowager as she sat beside Yihua. Those who came are guests, everyone, rise. Lu Jing shouted out lightly. Thank you, Empress Dowager. Everyone felt that Empress Dowager seemed to be very easy to talk to. However, at this moment, some of Yihua's subordinates were all on guard around the palace to prevent any sudden incidents from happening. Today, no accidents are allowed to happen. If not tomorrow, the entire north will go crazy. Yihua said with joy, "Today is my little brother's wedding. Firstly, I would like to thank everyone for coming. For those who came today, I have even prepared gifts, don't forget to bring them back." End of this chapter. Chapter 1156. Thank you, Your Majesty. Everyone shouted out once again, not daring to be the slightest bit impudent. They were even thinking in their hearts, what kind of treasure did the Emperor give them? It is definitely not a small thing, it is definitely a good thing. Yihua slowly sat down and signaled for everyone to continue. Blood Demon took a step forward and shouted, "The auspicious time has arrived, let the wedding ceremony begin." Everyone was very curious, just what kind of person is the Emperor's younger brother, and of course, they were also very curious what the bride looked like. Roar! A terrifying dragon roar suddenly resounded throughout the ground, causing everyone's scalp to go numb. Perhaps it was because they had just seen the red-winged white tiger, but when they looked at the dragon again, it seemed like the quality of the dragon had dropped a bit. However, everyone discovered that they were wrong. They were extremely wrong. Because this was a carriage being pulled by 9 dragons. 9 enormous dragons were pulling a wedding carriage, and the carriage was flying over from afar. Everyone in Wushu Empire saw it. Jiu Yang and Bai Dou were already numb to it. Too many things had happened today, and even their eyesight had been broadened. Compared to this place, the place that I came from is simply a rubbish dump. 9 enormous dragons of different colors soared in the sky, and within the wedding carriage was naturally Yi Juetian and Gong Yu. Right now, Gong Yu's head was covered with a red veil, and her hands were tightly clasped together, appearing to be very nervous. However, within this nervousness, there was also excitement. Today, I finally got what I wanted. I married the man that I liked. Although the process was a bit bumpy, the ending was still considered good. There was only one last segment left. Today, Yi was definitely going to die. It was not a good sign for someone to die in my own wedding ceremony, but in order to get rid of this scourge, I can only do this. Let Yi Juetian completely give up on this idea. Yi Juetian, who was sitting at the side, felt very uncomfortable. I wonder how Yi is right now. She should be feeling very bad, right? In the future, I will definitely help you clear your name. I believe that you are not a spy. Yi also saw dragons. These were creatures that ordinary people would never be able to see in their entire lives. Meanwhile, Yi and Gong Yu were sitting in the carriage at the back, being pulled by 9 divine dragons. What a great honor! If I am sitting in the carriage, how blissful would that be? However, these are all just my own wishful thinking. The 9 enormous dragons slowly landed on the red carpet, and the wedding carriage's door just so happened to be facing the red carpet. At this time, the groomsmen and bridesmaids appeared. The bridesmaids were Sun Fong and Tang Wei. Tang Wei felt that since Uncle Wei was not around, she should also do something. Zhu Tian personally opened the door, and Yi Juetian's figure appeared. However, when Yi Juetian appeared, everyone's eyes were filled with surprise. This person looks exactly the same as the emperor, as expected of my biological brother. As Gong Yu was wearing a red veil, everyone couldn't see her appearance clearly. However, from that arrogant body shape, it could be seen that she should be a beauty. In any case, it definitely won't be an ugly girl. Welcome the bride and groom. Play the music. Blood Devil shouted in a joyous tone. Looking at her youngest son getting married, Lu Jing's face was filled with satisfaction. Yi Hua was the same as well. He had finally managed to hold his younger brother's wedding. Dong 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 dong, dong 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 dong. A sweet-sounding voice resounded throughout the entire voidless empire as everyone offered their blessings. The 2 newcomers walked towards the main seat and prepared to greet. When he walked up the steps, the female officer below waved, indicating that the wine could be served. Just now, the drinks were almost finished. I will definitely have to propose a toast later on. Right now, Yi was holding onto the wine pot, and her breathing was a bit hurried, very nervous, very hesitant. However, when he saw Ye walking up the stairs, his rapid breathing gradually calmed down. Today, I must definitely explain everything clearly and say it in front of everyone. The palace maid slowly entered the venue and added more wine to the table. Jiu Yang looked at Yi, who was in front of him once again. Yi is very beautiful, but right now, he doesn't dare to tease her at all. His sitting posture is just like a child. He was afraid that his teacher would see him. Right now, Qian Yuqing's gaze was filled with astonishment. Because she had been worried about Yi, she specially observed Yi. Jiu Yang's position was closer to the front, thus Qian Yuqing saw Yi with a single glance. Qian Yuqing was startled by Yi's action. What are you doing? Don't mess around. If you mess around today, even the Heavenly King won't be able to save you. Yi, please don't do anything stupid. There will still be chances in the future, however, to Yi, today is a chance. If she misses today, there won't be any more chances in the future. Qingye saw that Qian Yuqing's expression was a bit bad, so she followed Qian Yuqing's gaze and looked over. Upon discovering Yi, Qingye was startled. Why is she here? This, Qingye hurriedly pulled Dong Huang Baiji, who was beside her, and hinted. Dong Huang Baiji similarly discovered Yi, and her expression sunk. For Yi to appear here today, could it be because of something else? It is definitely because of Yi Juetian's wedding. Could it be that Yi is here to stop the wedding? My God! This foolish woman is being muddle-headed again. If you do this, you will have wasted little Tian's painstaking efforts. Why are you so immature? However, to Yi, this is not doing a foolish thing, this is doing the right thing. Different positions, different ways of thinking would naturally be different. Perhaps, if Qingye and the others were to look at the problem from Yi's point of view, they wouldn't feel that what Yi is doing is foolish, but rather, what Yi is doing is a type of courage. She dares to face the tyrant Yi Hua. Gong Yu, who was walking on the stairs, was very nervous. If Yi were to give up today, my future days will definitely not be easy. However, I have already walked till now. Why haven't I heard Yi's voice yet? Foolish woman. Hurry up and shout, defend yourself. Yi Juetian still didn't know that Yi was standing not far away from him, and on his face, a blissful smile appeared. Yi had already changed the wine pot, and seemed to be preparing to return with the palace maids. However, when all of the palace maids returned, Yi was still standing in front of Jiu Yang without moving. Jiu Yang was a bit stupefied right now. Big sister, don't mess around, this is not a joke, if you are joking, I will die. Big sister, I beg you, quickly leave, I will apologize for my actions just now, okay? Please don't report me, I am in the wrong. Fan Jin also discovered that this palace maid is very strange, her expression is one of struggle. Could it be that she is preparing to report Jiu Yang's actions just now? Bai Dou also discovered that and sat at the side, not uttering a word. I mustn't invite trouble onto myself. Sure, Yu and Xiang Liren sneered in their hearts. Now you know fear, right? Why didn't you think when you were preparing to bully others just now? Yi's expression really frightened Jiu Yang badly. Right now, the famous Jiu Yang had the urge to pee in his pants. If this palace maid were to report me, I am finished. I am dead for sure, I will definitely have to feed it to the dragons. Big sister, I will kneel down for you, okay? Don't mess around. Jiu Yang said in a low voice, his lips were trembling, and his heart was about to jump out. However, Yi's face was expressionless as she slowly walked to the center position and looked at the tall stairs, as well as those people on top of the stairs. End of this chapter. Chapter 1157. Right now, Jiu Yang's mind was a bit dizzy. What are you doing? Just how big of a matter is this? I didn't even touch your hand, and you want to complain about me? Other people always say that women are stingy. I didn't believe it in the past, but today, I have finally seen it for myself. If you complain about me in this kind of situation, you will also die, and you still want to drag me to die with you. Are you crazy? With a thud, Yi directly knelt on the ground. Along with Yi kneeling down, Jiu Yang fainted, thinking to himself that I am going to die today. It's just a small matter. Do you really have to kill me? This was too careless. However, everyone looked at Yi's actions in confusion. What was this palace maid doing? Why did he suddenly kneel down? The other palace maids were also shocked. What was going on? The female official fainted from fright. She had instructed her not to make any mistakes today, but it still happened. When Qian Yuqing saw Yi kneeling down, her expression immediately became heavy. It's over, it's really over. Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi were the same. Yi Hua placed a lot of importance on today's event, and yet, Yi, you actually chose to create trouble today. Even we don't dare to plead for you. Qing Yutong didn't see it before, but now that she saw it, she was also shocked by Yi's actions. Brother-in-law had been preparing for this day for the past few days, and I even felt that someone would come and make trouble for me today. Alright, now that everything is alright, you really came to create trouble. My God, why are you so stupid? When Lu Jing saw Yi kneeling on the ground, the smile on her face gradually disappeared. Her gaze turned solemn. However, Yi Hua's line of sight was blocked by the two newbies. Thus, he was unable to see what was going on. However, he was able to hear the sounds of discussions. Right at this moment, Gong Yu also heard the subtle sounds of discussion that came from behind her, and she became happy in her heart. Could it be that Yi has made a move? Yi Juetian, who was beside him, also heard it, and he turned his head around to look at it with a puzzled expression. He immediately saw the palace maid kneeling in the middle. Yi Juetian's gaze gradually became astonished, and even became lifeless. Yi was actually kneeling here. Yi Juetian felt as if he had been struck by a bolt from the blue. Last night, I did think that Yi would come back, but that was all just my imagination running wild. Never in a million years would he have thought that the thing he feared the most would appear just like that. Yi really came. Gong Yu felt that Yi Juetian, who was beside her, had stopped. Then, without thinking too much, it was definitely Yi. This foolish woman still hasn't given up. I, Gong Yu, can't help but admire your courage. Making Big Brother Emperor look bad in front of so many people, if it was me, I definitely wouldn't have the guts. Yihua felt that the atmosphere wasn't right. Thus, he shifted his gaze slightly and immediately saw Yi, who was kneeling on the ground. His originally joyous face suddenly became incomparably gloomy. I have thought of all kinds of troublemaking scenarios. He had only forgotten about Yi. Never would I have expected this. She was the one who dared to cause trouble. Choosing such a special day to make me look bad. He was really scheming. Yi Juetian came back to his senses and immediately shouted, "Men! Drag her out!" This was also the only way to save Yi. "Silly woman, you can't act recklessly today, you will die." A few guards immediately walked towards Yi. However, Yihua shouted out gravely, "Wait." When Yi Juetian heard what his big brother said, he immediately felt that something was amiss. It wasn't only Yi Juetian who felt that way, Qinya and the others felt that way too. "It's over," Yi angered Yihua. When Gong Yu heard her big brother telling her to wait, she felt great in her heart. "Yi, if you don't die today, Zhu Tian will be yours. I, Gong Yu, will definitely do what I say." The people below were already discussing it. Those who were seated here were all big shots. They felt that this matter wasn't that simple. To dare to cause trouble at such an important moment, this palace maid's guts wasn't just ordinary. Could it be that this palace maid has gone mad? "Sure," you said in a low voice. Xiang Liren nodded his head. "That's right, we still have to listen to what this palace maid has to say. If it's something bad, I'm afraid." Fan Jin said gravely, "Seems like today isn't that simple." Zhou Yang had already fainted from fright. His face was pale and devoid of any color. If it was a normal situation, this kind of matter would definitely be dealt with at a later time and brought Yi away first. However, was Yihua that kind of person? The other party had already provoked him to his face. If I were to send someone to bring Yi away, tomorrow, news of my Wushu Empire doing something shameful would spread out. The losses outweighed the gains. At this moment, Lu Jing said in a low voice, "Yihua, let's deal with this matter at a later time." Yi Juetian must have definitely pleaded for his mother, and he hurriedly said, "Big brother, if we deal with this matter at a later time, I'm afraid that Wushu Empire's reputation will be affected." Qinya said in a low voice, "Yihua, the overall situation is more important." However, not only did Yihua's anger not quelled, he instead became angrier and angrier. "I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to see her today. What is she doing? To actually choose to slap my face in public. Such guts. After so many years, you are the first ordinary person who dares to do such a thing. And it's even a woman. I am innocent," Yi said in a low voice. Following Yi's words, the sounds of discussion became even louder. What does this palace maid mean? Why is she saying that she is innocent? Just what is such a powerful empire hiding? Is this a loss of morals, or is this a kidnapping by the empire? Right now, everyone's gossipy heart was burning and boiling. They wished that they could immediately know the ins and outs of the matter. When Yi Juetian heard Yi's words, his mind became a bit stupefied. What does Yi mean by this? Could it be that she is still trying to explain for my mother? After all, no one told Yi about the matter of the spy. I am not a spy, Yi explained in a low voice once again. However, this tone of hers made her seem so weak and helpless. However, the word spy caused a huge uproar. A spy actually appeared in such a powerful and prosperous Wushu empire. As expected, even powerful empires would have spies appearing. Furthermore, this spy even explained in front of everyone just what exactly is going on. Yi Hua's expression sunk. How did she know? Who told her about it? Yi Hua himself wasn't sure either. In actuality, in Yi Hua's heart, it wasn't important who told him about it. You made me lose a lot of face today. You actually want to explain? Then, I shall fulfill your wish. You said that you are not a spy. Do you have any evidence? Yi Hua asked coldly. If you are unable to give me a reason today, I will personally kill you. Yi, who was kneeling on the ground, slowly raised her head. Your Majesty, please believe me, I am not a spy. I will not harm everyone. I am not that kind of person. Seems like you don't have any evidence. However, I do. Yi Hua immediately waved his hand, and the conversation between Yi Hua and Huang Feidi instantly appeared. End of this chapter. Chapter 1158. Everyone was watching, and everyone was listening. When Yi heard and saw it, she was in disbelief. She didn't even know that man. Why did this man want to frame her? Your Majesty, I am being wrongly accused. I don't even know this man at all. Yi finally knew why Ye would ignore me, because all of them had misunderstood me. However, everyone didn't expect that this woman was actually sent by someone else to harm the Empress Dowager. My God, to actually be able to live until now after plotting against the Empress Dowager. Furthermore, looking at the Emperor's attitude, it seems like he already knew about it, but he didn't kill him. The various emperors couldn't help but think that if it were them, they would have already killed him. Yi Hua said coldly, you keep on saying that you are innocent, but where is the evidence? Isn't everything you're doing destroying this emperor's family? Yi Juetian. Don't you think so? Right now, Yi Hua was extremely furious. I, the Supreme Overlord, had already let her off, and didn't directly kill her. Today is such a big day, and yet, she actually appeared and said such a thing. Regardless of whether you were framed or not, you wasted all the medicine. This is an iron-like fact. My mother doesn't have much time left. If it wasn't for me giving my little brother face, I would have already killed you over 100 times. Do you still think you can live until now? Yi Juetian didn't know how to answer this question. He only thought about how to protect Yi's life. How? How was he supposed to protect himself? Yi Yuanqing really wanted to say a few words, but looking at his big brother's gloomy face, if he said it now, it would be even worse. Yi Yuanqing wasn't the only one who was thinking this way. Qingya and the others didn't dare to anger Yi Hua right now, as doing so would only hasten Yi's death. Gongyu, on the other hand, was very happy. Big Brother Emperor was already enraged. Today, Yi would definitely die. Lu Jing sighed helplessly. You silly child, why did you have to choose today? Aren't you just courting death? Everyone looked at Yi Juetian, and they seemed to have thought of something. It can't be that the Emperor's blood brother likes this girl, right? Otherwise, how could this woman still be alive? Yi raised her head and looked at Yi Juetian. So, other people can choose not to believe in themselves, but Yi, you should believe in yourself. Really? Yi Juetian felt that, if I were to choose to believe Yi, wouldn't I end up angering Big Brother even more? If he really did that, he would definitely lose his big brother's face in front of everyone. At that time, it would be even more difficult to clean up the mess, and his big brother would be even more furious. However, if I don't believe in Yi will definitely feel very uncomfortable. Yi Juetian glanced at his elder brother with a pleading look in his eyes. Could he not kill Yi? Yi Hua didn't even take a look at it. Yi Juetian knitted his brows tightly. He turned around and shouted, since you don't have any evidence, then don't bother explaining anymore. Hearing Yi Juetian's words, Yi Hua felt slightly better. I didn't lose face for Big Brother in front of so many people. At least you're sensible. Yi Juetian thought to himself, I'm giving my big brother face, so my big brother should also give me face. However, when Yi heard Yi Juetian's words, her face instantly became pale and powerless. Why does everyone not believe in me? Even you are the same as them. Yi couldn't help but think back to the scene where she met Yi Juetian for the first time. I believed in you, and I followed you. But, in the end, why can't I believe in you? Why would I harm others? Why don't you believe in me? Yi looked at Yi Juetian and asked. Without a doubt, this was telling everyone that she had a relationship with this prince. Everyone discussed in a low voice. Royal family gossip, even such an awesome royal family would have this kind of gossip, the plot of a prince falling in love with a palace maid, but in the end, marrying someone else. This is really too melodramatic. Tomorrow, the entire North will most probably spread about how powerful Wushu Empire is, and how there is a secret that no one knows about. Yi Juetian really hoped that Yi would stop asking about this. I am clearly saying this for Big Brother to hear, however, how would the sad Yi understand all these? Yi will believe whatever you say to her. Yi Juetian looked at the discussions that everyone was having, and thought to himself, I'm done for, Big Brother is a respectable person. Enough. You don't have to say any more, I will not believe in the words that you say. Yi Juetian endured the pain in his heart and shouted out. Looking at how much pain Yi was in, I really want to take her place and bear this sin. Hearing Yi Juetian's words, Yi's face became ashen. The discussions that were happening beside Yi's ears entered Yi's ears. This woman still wants to enter the royal family, she is truly shameless. That's right, to intentionally choose such a day to lay all her cards on the table, she is truly a scheming woman. If I was the emperor, I would have killed this kind of woman long ago. If you have the ability, then you are the emperor, all right? All sorts of malicious words caused Yi's head to feel a bit dizzy. Yi slowly raised her head and looked towards the blue sky. The sky above Wushu Empire was very beautiful, and when the gentle sunlight shone onto Yi's body, it felt very warm. However, Yi was not able to feel this warmth. On the contrary, it was bone-piercingly cold, so cold that it seemed as if it could even freeze one's heart. Yi Hua, today is little Tian's big day, let's not cause any deaths. Lu Jing said lightly at the side. It would be inauspicious if someone were to die during a wedding. Yi Hua felt that what his mother said was reasonable. Originally, he just wanted to wash away his bad luck and sweep away his bad luck. Today is my little brother's big day, I do not wish to see blood. I will deal with this matter later. Yi Hua shouted out coldly. Towards his little brother, he was already being extremely benevolent. If it was in the past, his little brother would definitely not be alive. Yi Juetian let out a heavy sigh. Luckily, Big Brother gave me face. If not, Yi would definitely be dead. Gong Yu's expression was very bad. Big Brother Emperor actually spared Yi, how is this possible? For her to say such words in front of all of the guests, isn't this the same as throwing away Big Brother Emperor's face? Fortunately, the red veil covered her face, or else Gong Yu's twisted face would have been exposed. Qian Yuqing and the others let out a sigh of relief. Yi Hua's decision was a wise one. He did not cause any deaths during the wedding, that would be inauspicious. No. I'm not a spy. Yi Juetian. I'm not a spy. Yi, who was originally silent, suddenly erupted. Her pair of red eyes looked at Yi Juetian, who was on the stairs. How miserable and sorrowful is that? How much suffering did I have to suffer? I believed in you, yet you don't believe in me. Yi Juetian was stupefied by Yi, because Yi had never acted like this before. That heart-wrenching and lung-splitting voice was transmitted into Yi Hua's mind, shattering his heart. Yihua had originally wanted to let her off today, but I didn't expect that she would become even worse. Do you really think that I don't dare to kill you? Qian Yuqing seemed to be able to understand Yi's feelings. Back then, Yihua was also incomparably cold towards me, and at that time, I even had the heart to die. Luckily, this scoundrel Yihua was lying to me, and I almost scared my soul off. End of this chapter. Chapter 1159. However, the situation right now was different. Huang Feidi had died, and right now, there was no one to testify against him. How was it possible for Yi to wash away the injustice? However, right at this moment, Qian Yuqing's eyes lit up, and she suddenly thought of a good idea. Soul Gem. The spirit gem was still in his hands. This should be the only thing that could prove Yi's innocence. Justice for Yi. Perhaps it was because they were in the same boat. Qian Yuqing said, Yihua, I have something that can prove whether Yi is a spy or not. Yihua looked towards Qian Yuqing. His meaning was very clear. Do you want to get involved in this matter as well? Yihua, this is the spirit gem from back then. That Huang Yun won't be able to withstand this. Let Yi give it a try. If she is a spy, then just kill her. If she isn't a spy, then husband, please deal with her leniently. Qian Yuqing said in a low voice. She did not let anyone else hear her, but Yi Juetian and Gong Yu, who were closer to her, heard her. Yi Juetian was very excited because he believed that Yi was not a spy. But Gong Yu was not happy. He knew that Yi wasn't a spy, but if Yi's name was cleared, this was not good for him. Should I say something now? Otherwise, I won't have the chance anymore. Gong Yu didn't dare to say it. If she stopped him now, she would become a suspect. Yihua looked at the spirit gem and slightly wrinkled his brows. His expression was very tense. Yihua, why don't you give it a try? At least there will be a result. Lu Jing spoke, and all of the daughters-in-law let out a breath of relief. Yihua said gravely, all right. Yi, this emperor will give you another chance. Hearing his big brother's words, Yi Juetian was very happy. Yi could finally clear her name. However, Yi who was kneeling on the ground didn't have any feelings at all, because Yi Juetian didn't believe in her. Right now, there was already no meaning in trying to explain anything to him. A man who didn't believe in me, and I even foolishly gave up everything for him, he was so stupid. Qian Yuqing took the heart gem and walked towards Yi. Everyone was able to admire the beauty of the Empress up close. She was so beautiful that it was suffocating. Qian Yuqing was the most beautiful woman in the gods' realm, and that was not just for show. Actually, Yi wasn't bad either. It was just that her aura wasn't there yet. Yi, take this. It can prove your innocence. Qian Yuqing helped Yi up and encouraged her. Everyone looked at the spirit gem in Qian Yuqing's hand and felt quite confused. They did not know what this spirit gem was used for. However, this mind gem was a lie detector. Yi looked at the bead in Qian Yuqing's hand. A small bead could make her innocent, but could it build trust again? Yi Juetian, I will never trust you again. I will never trust you again in this lifetime. If I could, I would rather be spurned by everyone on the street than kneel here and be distrusted by you. Yi. Qian Yuqing called out softly. Qian Yuqing realized that Yi had changed a little at this moment. She seemed to have become a stranger. Yi took over the spirit gem and held it in her hand. Yi couldn't feel any emotions anymore. In this world, there is already nothing left for me to remember. The only person I have left has also passed away. Qian Yuqing took a deep breath and shouted at the crowd, everyone, this is the soul gem, it can detect lies. If you're not lying, the spirit gem will shine brightly, otherwise it will dim. After that, Qian Yuqing looked at Yi and asked in a deep voice, Yi, are you a spy? Everyone held their breath at this moment. Not knowing why, the life and death of this palace made affected everyone's emotions. Even Fan Jin was the same. Looking at this infatuated woman, even Fan Jin felt that she was wronged. Qian Yuqing looked at Yi closely and waited for the result. Meanwhile, Yi, who was holding on to the soul gem, slightly raised her head and looked towards Yi Juetian. Yi could feel that Yi Juetian wanted to hear the result. He doesn't believe me. I'm just a joke, Yi shouted out loudly, I'm a spy. Following that, everyone became puzzled. They didn't know what was going on. Wasn't Yi trying to clarify just now? Why did she admit to it now? In actuality, Yi was mocking those people who didn't believe in her. Yi Hua could feel Yi's mockery, and his expression became incomparably gloomy. I was actually mocked by a woman. However, after a short while, the soul gem in Yi's hand didn't emit any light at all. On the contrary, it became dim. The entire crowd went into an uproar. This palace maid just said a lie. She isn't a spy. Qian Yuqing revealed out a smile. I knew that Yi isn't a spy. Yi Juetian was also very happy. How could Yi be a spy? She really scared him badly. Qinya and the others also let out a sigh of relief. It's good that he isn't a spy, everything is just a misunderstanding. However, right now, Yi Hua's mood became even worse. Yi is actually not a spy. That damned Huang Feidy lied to me. And I actually foolishly believed it. That damned Huang Feidy. I shouldn't have let White Bones kill him so easily, I should have ruthlessly tortured him. You actually lied to me. In actuality, it was very normal for Yi Hua to be deceived. His mother's life was on the verge of death, and Yi Hua was completely unable to maintain a calm mind. Furthermore, Yi was indeed a suspect, and all of these were very reasonable. However, only these women, with their sixth sense, felt that Yi was not a spy, so sometimes, what they saw and heard might not be true. Only at this moment did Yi Hua realize that not only was his face slapped by a dead person, his face was also slapped by Yi, who was below him. Hee hee, hee hee. Yi Hua revealed a self-mocking smile on his face. How many years has it been? I, the Supreme Overlord, was actually played by someone. My intelligence was fiercely rubbed on the ground. In actuality, Lu Jing had always felt that Yi wasn't a spy, just that Yi was rather stupid. Right now, seeing that Yi was able to prove herself, Lu Jing felt at ease. Gong Yu's mood was very bad right now. I didn't expect that sister-in-law would have such a method to save Yi, this foolish woman. I will think of a way in the future. Let's settle this marriage first. At the very least, I will have a status, while you don't have a status. When everyone saw that Yi was able to prove her innocence, a smile appeared on their faces. It wasn't easy for this little palace maid. It wasn't known who started clapping, but everyone started clapping and cheering for Yi. As an ordinary palace maid, for Yi to be able to face such a powerful empire, even Fan Jin would feel ashamed of his own inferiority. Qian Yuqing stretched out her hand and wiped away the tears that were at the corner of Yi's eyes, then said tenderly, all right, everything is fine now. Yi returned the spirit gem that was in her hand to Qian Yuqing, then said lightly, Empress, thank you. It's good that you are fine now, go back and have a good rest later. And I indeed need to have a good rest. Yi said lightly, but Qian Yuqing didn't understand the meaning behind Yi's words. End of this chapter. Chapter 1160. The rest that Yi was talking about was to rest for a long time, to rest forever. I'm tired, I'm really tired. Qian Yuqing walked towards the stairs in satisfaction, but before she even took a few steps, Qian Yuqing heard Yi Juetian shouting out loudly, "Yi!" However, everyone in the surroundings immediately stood up, and their gazes were filled with shock and puzzlement. Fan Jin didn't understand. Why did this palace maid want to do this? Didn't I already explain it clearly? Qian Yuqing turned her head around and looked towards Yi. She didn't know what happened, but Qing Ye and the others had clearly seen what happened just now, and they were all stupefied. Even Yi Hua had seen what happened just now, and his entire body felt unwell. If Yi's innocence just now was equivalent to slapping my face, then what Yi is doing right now is equivalent to mocking me. She doesn't need my forgiveness at all. This was the first time Yi Hua had seen such a woman, and he was clearly feeling very heavy. In fact, he was even pondering over what happened to Yi. Was I really wrong? She actually used her death to tell everyone that she doesn't need other people's pity. This ordinary woman. She actually defeated me. Yi Juetian directly rushed towards Yi. Gong Yu didn't stop him, because just now, Yi had already swallowed the poison that Gong Yu had given to her, and this poison was incurable. Gong Yu had originally kept it for herself, but after coming here, she discovered that she didn't need it at all. Don't come over. Yi took a few steps back, then pointed at Yi Juetian and shouted out. Yi Juetian stopped his footsteps, and tears flowed down from his eyes. Yi, why, didn't everything end? That's right, everything has ended. I'm tired. I don't want to continue living with you anymore. Yi revealed out a smile. How many days has it been? This was the most natural smile that Yi revealed out. This was a type of release, this was a type of relaxation. Right now, Yi's heart was very calm, and there wasn't a single trace of reluctance. Yi Juetian didn't understand why Yi would choose to end her own life. We can still continue living. Yi, can you believe in me? Yi looked towards the blue sky once again and said lightly, No, I won't believe in you anymore. Please let me go, Yi. I won't, don't leave me. Yi Juetian shouted out. Why did this happen? Just what did I do wrong? The people around them seemed to be able to feel this desolation. This was a pair of lovers with a bitter fate. It was a touching scene. Qing Ye and Dong Huang Baiji were both sobbing. Never in their wildest dreams would they have thought that Yi would be like this. Qing Yutong looked at Yi blankly, and tears slowly flowed down from her eyes. This silly girl, why is she so silly? Gong Yu was very happy. The matter is finally settled. Cracks appeared on Yi's body, giving off a white light. Yi could feel the peace before death. She no longer had to think about how he was doing. Has he eaten? Was he hungry? Did he rest well? Yi Juetian looked at Yi's face. Those cracks had already caused Yi's face to become blurry. However, Yi still had one last thing to say. If I could turn back time, I wouldn't go with you. Yi said softly, but her voice contained too much bitterness. Everyone could tell that this girl really did not have it easy. Yi slowly raised her head and took one last look at Wushu Empire's blue sky. It's really very blue, Yi. Yi Juetian immediately ran towards Yi and hugged onto Yi's body. However, Yi's body shattered into pieces within Yi Juetian's embrace. Just like how Yi Juetian's heart shattered into pieces, the sparkling and translucent pieces fell onto the ground, and Yi Juetian looked at the pieces on the ground stupidly. After an unknown amount of time, Yi Juetian slowly squatted down and touched the pieces with his trembling hands. That pair of clear eyes of his did not carry any nostalgia at all. His tears fell onto the pieces, and as Yi Juetian picked up the pieces, his heart ached to the point that he couldn't breathe. That girl who loved to smile, her smile just now was so sweet, yet at the very end, her smile was one of release. Perhaps it was just like what Yi had said just now, I shouldn't have allowed her to follow me. If not, how could things have turned out like this? How much grievance and pain did I make Yi suffer? Now that Yi is free, who is going to free me? I only want you to live. I have always believed in you from the start. Yi Juetian hugged the pieces in his embrace, as if he was hugging Yi again, and he could even feel the warmth of Yi's body. I will bring you out of this place, I shouldn't have brought you here. Just like that, everyone watched as Yi Juetian left. No one stopped him, not even Yi Hua. Yi Hua only instructed Yi Zizi to look after Yi Juetian and not let him do anything foolish. As long as Yi is able to die, Yi Juetian will be mine. Now, it will be my turn to console Yi Juetian and let him walk out of this sorrow. Right now, Yi Hua tightly clenched his fists. This woman is making me feel so uncomfortable. At this moment, Zhou Yang slowly woke up, and he sized up the surroundings with a confused gaze. Noticing that the people in the surroundings seemed to be very heavy, he then secretly looked towards the emperor who was on the stairs, and his expression was incomparably heavy. However, that palace maid from earlier had already disappeared, she must have been executed. In that case, she is definitely going to kill me next. Zhou Yang immediately fainted again. How big of a matter is this? Is there a need to fight to the death? It's not like there is a deep hatred between us. Yi Hua directly disappeared from his seat and did not say anything. His mood was extremely bad right now. Qingye could sense Yi Hua's hesitation. Yi's matter might have given Yi Hua a deep lesson. Lu Jing didn't expect that the happy occasion would end up like this. However, right now, she had no choice but to stand up and speak. Everyone, due to a situation that occurred, today's wedding ceremony is temporarily cancelled. Thank you for coming. Lu Jing said lightly, then let Yi Yuanqing who was beside her support her down the stairs. This is terrible. At this moment, Qian Yuqing was still standing on the stairs blankly, feeling that everything that happened just now was just like a dream. At this moment, Qingye and the others had also left the wedding ceremony. As the groomsmen and bridesmaids, they had to arrange for everyone to leave the wedding ceremony. However, what happened today would be spread throughout the entire north tomorrow. As for how it would be spread, an emperor hounding a palace maid to death, there would definitely be such a version. Where's Yi Hua? Where did he go? Qingye searched the entire bedroom, but was unable to find Yi Hua's shadow. I didn't find him here either. Donghuang Baiji said anxiously. This Yi Hua couldn't have taken things too hard, right? Qin Yutong let out a light sigh, brother-in-law suffered a blow today. Huang Feidi's teasing and Yi's decisiveness caused brother-in-law to feel very uncomfortable. Qingye rubbed onto her forehead and said gravely, that's right, Yi Hua rarely wronged others, but this time, he wronged others. Furthermore, the palace maid had already died to show her sincerity, there is no need for Yi Hua's charity. End of this chapter. Chapter 1161. This is my first time seeing Yi Hua like this. Donghuang Baiji said concernedly. In the past, Yi would always have a calm look on his face, as if everything was within his grasp. However, this time, Yi had completely miscalculated. Even in such a situation, Yi had chosen to commit suicide. Wasn't this the same as telling Yi Hua, my life is not under your control? The problem is, where did Yi Hua run off to? Qingye asked worriedly. He is already a few thousand years old, how can he still go missing? Does he think that I am still a child? Qin Yutong suddenly clapped her hands, I know where brother-in-law went. However, right now, Yi Hua was currently sitting inside the bedroom of Leisure Bar, and the television was currently playing Calabash Brothers Saving Grandpa. Only by watching this would Yi Hua's mood be able to calm down. Every time when Yi Hua was in a bad mood, he would quietly sit down and watch cartoons. Right now, Yi Hua was incomparably serious as he watched the battle. However, his heart was very heavy. Was I really wrong this time? How could this woman be so powerful? She had already proven her innocence, yet it still ended in death in the end. Especially when Yihua saw his younger brother desperately hugging onto Yi and his younger brother's shattered body, Yihua found it hard to accept such a scene. Wrong. Wrong. This time, I, the Supreme Overlord, am really wrong. This girl, Yi, has really let me see what is wrong. 3 beautiful figures appeared behind Yihua. Seeing that Yihua was sitting on the sofa and watching Calabash Brothers saving his grandfather, Qingye and the others finally felt at ease. This fellow, seems like Qing Yutong understands this brother-in-law quite well, and knows that he definitely ran over here. Although the 3 wives had already found Yihua, they didn't disturb Yihua from watching the cartoon. They knew that Yihua was currently reflecting on himself. It was a pity for Yi and the infatuated Yi Juetian to learn from this matter. On the other side, Yi Juetian carried the fragment and walked out of Voidless Empire. Yi Zizi followed behind him. After leaving Voidless Empire, the temperature started to plummet, and the snow that filled the sky seemed to be silently mourning for Yi. Yi Juetian muttered to himself. Actually, I really want to walk in the snow with you, but in the Imperial Palace, I don't dare to come find you. I'm afraid you'll be in danger. We are finally out now, out of the Imperial Palace, out of Wushu Empire, Yi. I'm sorry. Yi Juetian said with a heavy tone. He suddenly felt that something was wrong. The fragment in his bosom was gradually dissipating, causing Yi Juetian to panic. E. The fragments fell onto the snowy ground. Yi Juetian frantically picked up the fragments, but these fragments were quickly dissipating. Those spirited eyes disappeared from Yi Juetian's eyes. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't bring back those sweet memories. In just a few breaths of time, all the fragments had disappeared. Yi Juetian sat paralyzed on the snowy ground, staring at the sky. It was as if he had lost his soul, and regret flowed out from the corners of his eyes. Swish, swish, swish. A series of footsteps rang out behind Yi Juetian. Yi Zizi sucked on her lollipop and stood beside Yi Juetian. After a long time, she asked, "Do you blame your big brother?" "I blame myself for not protecting her properly," Yi Juetian said powerlessly. "I can't even protect the woman I love. What kind of man am I?" Yi Zizi let out a long sigh. "I feel that Yi is a good girl, so I gave her my favorite lollipop." Yi Juetian didn't say anything. Even now, he still couldn't accept the fact that Yi had already died. "I hope that on the other side, there is only sweetness and no pain," Yi Zizi said faintly. Illusory land. At this moment, an anomaly appeared. The entire sky became multicolored, and a sacred aura appeared. All of the animals let out low roars, and some even knelt on the ground. All of the animals faced a single direction and lowered their heads. This kind of anomaly appeared in every corner of the illusory land, and everyone felt this baptism. Within a small forest, 2 old men were currently playing chess. One of them, who was placing down a chess piece, suddenly stopped and raised his head to look at the sky. The entire sky was like a sunset, and all sorts of birds let out joyful cries. The old man didn't place his chess piece down and placed it back into the round box. Seems like this aunt succeeded in her tribulation. It truly wasn't easy. She is the first female deity in the 9 provinces and 5 seas. The old man said with a slight smile. "Brother Eastern Emperor, this congratulatory gift should have been sent up long ago, right?" "Brother Jiang, that is only natural." One of the 2 old men was Eastern Emperor family's leader, Eastern Emperor Jishang, and the other was Jiang family's leader, Jiang Wuyu. Jiang Wuyu scooped a bowl of clear spring water and poured it into the bamboo cups of the 2 old men, then said softly, "But then again, this aunt's final tribulation should be the love tribulation, right? Looking at the time, it hasn't even been half a year, right? Brother Jiang, which do you think is more painful, short or long?" Eastern Emperor Jishang asked softly, then picked up a black chess piece at the side and placed it down. Jiang Wuyu looked at Jiang Wuyu, then picked up a white chess piece with his index and middle fingers. When a relationship reaches a certain level, it doesn't matter if it's long or short. Perhaps it's more painful if it's short, but if it's long, it'll be forgotten. Then, do you still remember her? Eastern Emperor Jishang asked softly. The white chess piece in Jiang Wuyu's hand trembled for a moment, then lightly placed it down. A beauty has already passed away, and even if I want to forget her, I still can't. This love tribulation is truly the most difficult of all tribulations. I wonder if this ant will be able to face it calmly. Eastern Emperor Jishang placed a black chess piece down and said faintly. Jiang Wuyu took a sip of the clear spring water and said softly, how many women have been destroyed by this love tribulation? It all depends on fate now. Sometimes, being heartless isn't a bad thing. What is love in the world? Jiang Wuyu let out a long sigh, seemingly recalling his own love tribulation. Eastern Emperor Jishang smiled. Without painstaking love, one wouldn't be able to sigh like you. Don't talk about me, isn't your love tribulation the same as yours? Jiang Wuyu also reminisced for a while. After so many years had passed, Jiang Wuyu had long seen through his love tribulation. Eastern Emperor Jishang smiled in self-mockery and didn't say anything. However, in the small city with a courtyard, all of the residents could feel a sacred feeling, and all of them knelt down towards a tall building in the middle of the city. Everyone's face was filled with deep joy. Ant finally became a deity. Originally, I thought that it would take at least 100 years for Ant to become a deity, but who would have thought that in less than half a year, Ant would successfully become a deity? 9 provinces and 5 seas first deity. Deity Meng Yao. However, on top of the tall building, a woman was sitting cross-legged. This woman was very beautiful, very beautiful. She wasn't someone else. She was precisely Yi. PFFF. A mouthful of blood sprayed out from Meng Yao's mouth, and the blood splattered onto the wooden board. Meng Yao gasped for breath. Her left hand was supporting herself on the wooden board, and her right hand was holding onto her chest. It hurts. My heart hurts, Meng Yao. At this moment, the wooden door was pushed open, and a woman appeared. This woman was precisely Meng Yao's cousin, Meng Li. Meng Yao waved her hand. I'm fine. End of this chapter. Chapter 1162. Looking at the pool of blood on the ground, Meng Li was very worried. With her brows wrinkled, she asked, Meng Yao, this time. Before Meng Li could finish, Meng Yao said softly, let me sit alone for a while. Seeing Meng Yao like this, Meng Li knew that love tribulations were painful. Meng Li didn't try to persuade her and slowly left the room to let Meng Yao calm down. Right now, her thoughts must be very chaotic. Meng Yao wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth and slowly stood up, subconsciously touching her pocket. He took out a white cloth and slowly opened it. There was a pink lollipop inside. Meng Yao held it in her mouth as she stared at the sky. You owe me. Give them back to me. Thinking back to the past few months, Meng Yao felt as if someone was tearing her heart apart. Yi Juetian. I trust you so much. But you treat me like this. And Gong Yu. Yi is a stupid woman. But I, Meng Yao, am not stupid. You deliberately made me cause trouble today because you wanted me to die. So it turns out that what you've shown was all hypocrisy. You won't die. How can I dispel the hatred in my heart? Meng Yao put the lollipop in her mouth back into a handkerchief and wrapped it up properly. Everyone said that love tribulations were hard to deal with. It would make people wish they were dead. Yes. Pain, even if I become a god, my heart will still feel pain. Yi Juetian. You're so cruel to me. Meng Li. Meng Yao called out softly. Meng Li pushed the door open and entered. She stood behind Meng Yao and leaned forward slightly. Meng Yao, are you feeling all right? Bring me the blood sun cleansing flower. Meng Li furrowed her brows and asked in puzzlement, Meng Yao, what do you want the blood yang purification flower for? That is. Don't ask any more. I don't want to owe others, but others owe me. You must return it. Meng Yao coldly said. She had wasted the Empress Dowager's medicine, and she didn't have much time left. This was her fault, she would pay for it. But those who bullied me, none of them will have it easy. But the blood sun purifying flower is passed down from generation to generation. I'm afraid. If there's anything, I will bear it myself. Go and get it. All right, calm down, Meng Yao. Meng Li advised in a low voice. She felt that Meng Yao had suffered a lot. Otherwise, why would she have such a reaction? She had even vomited blood after returning. Meng Yao, I don't care what you're going to do, but I still hope that you can rest for a few days. Your current condition isn't very good. I know. Meng Yao nodded, before sitting down cross-legged. If she didn't vent her anger, she wouldn't be able to swallow it. Inside Leisure Bar, Yihua had already watched cartoons for the entire morning. After switching off the television, Yihua said lightly, let's go back. During this entire morning, Yihua reflected on his actions. During this period of time, my temper has become a lot more irritable, and my thinking also lacks judgment. Although this matter caused Yihua to suffer a setback, it was also a profound lesson that would allow Yihua to find out his own inadequacies, and from there, improve his own inadequacies, allow himself to become more and more perfect, and not allow his judgment to be affected by some emotions. Qin Ye and Dong Huang Baiji supported Qin Yutong. We are still in the middle of a Cold War, it would be inappropriate for us to be too concerned about Qin Yutong. Qin Yutong was also speechless. He was obviously worried to death, yet he still wanted to save face. Brother-in-law, are you all right? Qin Yutong asked concernedly. It's been a long time since I've seen brother-in-law so dejected, and my heart ached for him. Yihua shook his head, expressing that he was all right. Right now, Dong Huang Baiji couldn't bear it anymore. In actuality, she had wanted to talk about this problem since a long time ago. Yihua, do you know that your ideals right now are very bad? When did you start to have the idea that two people are of equal status? Although Yi is just an ordinary person, her bravery is even stronger than those sect masters and sect masters. You are too shallow. Seeing that Dong Huang Baiji had already spoken, Qin Ye also had to express her opinion. What Baiji said is right, Yihua, you are already looking down on others regarding this matter. Thinking back then, do you know who I am? Do you know who Baiji is? Didn't you still have sex with us without saying anything? At that time, did you ever think that we are worthy of you, the Supreme Overlord? Yihua, you really have to properly reflect on yourself. Ever since you became the emperor, you have changed a lot, you are now the same as those emperors on television. After Qin Ye finished speaking to Dong Huang Baiji, she was prepared to be lectured by Yihua. Hearing that, Yihua remained silent for a long time. In the end, he said lightly, let's go back and see how little Tian is doing. After finished speaking, Yihua disappeared from the sofa. Qin Ye and the others were very puzzled. This act-tough King Yi is not going to flip out. He wanted to hurry back and see how his mother-in-law was doing. After such a thing happened, his mother-in-law should be feeling terrible. Yi's death simply made everyone unhappy. Qin Ye and the others arrived at Lu Jing's palace. Qian Yuqing was by Lu Jing's side, and Daji was serving her. However, Lu Jing's complexion was not very good. It was a little pale, but it was very rosy before. Mother, what happened to you? Qinya hurriedly walked forward and held on to Lu Jing's hand. Lu Jing revealed a gentle smile. It's okay. Mother is fine. Donghuang Baiji looked towards Qian Yuqing. The meaning of her question was very obvious. However, Qian Yuqing's eyebrows were tightly knitted together. Her mother was also grieved when she saw how sad little Tian was, causing the poison to spread even faster. Just a while ago, I drank another bottle of Spirit Spring, and only then did I feel slightly better. However, right now, there wasn't much Spirit Spring left. If I still can't find the antidote, I'm afraid that I'll be in danger. Silly child, mother is very well. Lu Jing consoled her daughters-in-law. Lu Jing knew that her illness had already reached its end. Mother, I'll go and look for Yihua to think of a way. Qinya couldn't be bothered with the Cold War anymore. Right now, only Yihua can save her mother. However, Yihua also had no other way. There was no progress in Zhu Tian's research, and the only person who could solve the problem, Qing Su, had also disappeared. Lu Jing held on to Qinya's hand. Don't go, Yihua is already very unhappy today. Don't let mother's illness bother him anymore. Everyone was like this, even if they were sick, they wouldn't want to tell their son about it, in case their son would worry about them. But mother, we can't drag this on any longer. Donghuang Baiji said anxiously, and her eyes were already red. Forget it then, you all can accompany mother and have a chat. Lu Jing said with a slight smile. In actuality, being able to see that Yihua didn't die was already enough for her to feel relieved. Being able to see little Tian getting married was already a blessing from the heavens. The four daughters-in-law could only tightly hold on to their mother-in-law's hand. Even if their strength was extraordinary, when they encountered some rare illnesses, they were completely helpless. Right now, Yihua found Yi Juetian through Yi Zizi. Yi Juetian was currently in an inn. This inn was the place that Yi stayed in back then, and to Yi Juetian, this inn was a place that had commemorative value. Are you alright? Yihua asked Yi Zizi. End of chapter. Chapter 1163. Yi Zizi said respectfully, Your Honor, he is still fine, it's just that he hasn't come out yet. You can go back and rest. Yihua said with his hands behind his back. All right. This subordinate will take his leave. After saying that, Yi Zizi disappeared. Yihua pushed open the door and entered into the room, and saw that his little brother was currently drinking cup after cup, and a blush had already appeared on his little brother's face. Yihua did not say anything and just sat in front of his brother, then poured himself a cup of wine. The two brothers drank in silence, and neither of them spoke first. Little Tian, Yi is indeed a good girl, just a little stupid. Yihua said faintly. Although I have clarified that I am not a spy, it is still a fact that I have wasted my mother's life-saving medicine. Yi Juetian revealed a bleak smile. Big brother, I just like her stupidity. I've never seen a girl like her before. She's so stupid that it breaks my heart. Perhaps I shouldn't have forced you from the very beginning. Yihua said in a low voice. Just now, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji's words had awakened the main Supreme Overlord. When did I, the Supreme Overlord, become that kind of person? Could it be that my mind has been affected by the riches and honor in front of me, and I feel that only powerful women are worthy of my younger brother? Or, could it be that only powerful women are worthy of marrying into the family? I'm not thinking for my younger brother, I'm thinking for myself. I believe that only the strong are qualified to enter the Yi clan. However, was Qinya a powerful expert back then? She's just a boss, a woman who doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. Didn't I like her back then? For her, he had put down his pride a few times. What's the difference between Yi and Qinya from back then? Yi is fine on my own, but it won't work on my little brother. Sometimes, only when something has happened, would one know what is wrong. Right now, Yihua could be considered to have realized that he shouldn't have forcefully imposed his own wishes onto his younger brother. Of course, there was also the children. Back then, when I let them go out, I also carried a bit of selfishness within me. However, the Supreme Overlord's intention was good, it was just that he used the wrong method. Yi Juetian slowly raised his head and looked at his big brother in front of him. He cried out miserably, "Big brother, it's too late to say anything now. Yi is already dead." Yihua patted on his younger brother's shoulder, then picked up the wine pot and poured a cup of wine. "Come. Let's drink till we're drunk." The two brothers drank without restraint. They didn't use any magic to disperse it. They just drank with the bodies of ordinary people. It was very rare for Yihua to get drunk, and it could be said that he had never gotten drunk before. Today, he was accompanying his little brother to get drunk, and he was also letting himself indulge for once. His mother's illness, Wei Chang's disappearance, Qing Su's escape with Dou Fusher, and of course, Yi's death. The two brothers were completely drunk and had begun to let themselves loose. Furthermore, he wasn't doing it in his room, but on the streets. The surrounding people were simply dumbstruck. His Majesty, and His Highness. Which one is the Majesty? How did he get so drunk? The news quickly spread to the palace, and when Qingye and the others heard about it, black lines appeared on their foreheads. Yihua and Yi Juetian are both drunk. What was going on? And you are even peeing on the streets. Do you not want your dignity as an emperor anymore? Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji hurriedly left the palace, and Gong Yu followed behind them as well. However, on the street, Xiao Tian, big brother will bring you to the brothel to play. Yihua held on to his little brother's shoulder and said happily. Big brother, I want a dozen. Alright, let us brothers fight one-on-one. Yihua said drunkenly, and a drunken smile could be seen on his face. It was very rare for Yihua to be in such a state. The surrounding people were all discussing. His Majesty brought Prince to a brothel. My God. I wonder if applying to be a courtesan queen would be of any use or not. I really want to be rubbed against by the brothers together. However, right when Yihua and Yi Juetian were about to enter, Qingye and the others finally arrived, and they brought Yihua and Yi Juetian along as they disappeared from the spot. The girls standing at the entrance of the brothel had been extremely excited just a moment ago, but suddenly, they had disappeared. It was as if they had reached the pinnacle of their lives, only to fall from the sky. That kind of feeling of loss was incomparably painful. In the imperial palace, they appeared again. Yihua took a look at Qingye and Donghuang Baiji who were beside him, then immediately hugged them into his embrace and kissed them. Wives, when did you two arrive? Qingye and Donghuang Baiji could smell a strong smell of alcohol, and both of them wrinkled their brows. He actually brought his younger brother to that kind of place. Shameless. Meanwhile, Yi Juetian, who was at the side, was being supported by Gong Yu. However, Gong Yu wasn't as lucky as Yihua. Why did you only arrive now? Big brother was preparing to bring me to a brothel just now. Along with Yi Juetian's words, the smile on Gong Yu's face gradually disappeared. He is already so drunk, yet his mind is still filled with Yi. Yi is already dead. It is impossible for her to appear again. Yihua looked at his younger brother and smiled. Little Tian, chasing a girl is a skill. Do you know how Big Brother managed to chase after your sister-in-law? Big Brother, please teach your little brother. Yi Juetian cupped his hands and laughed loudly. Yihua laughed loudly. All right. In actuality, the skill lies in a single word. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji immediately felt that something was wrong. That is to do it. This way, they will be able to be obedient, isn't that right, wife? Qingye immediately covered Yihua's mouth. This scoundrel, to actually talk nonsense when he is drunk. It is fortunate that we are not in a place with many people, if not, we would have lost face. Dong Huang Baiji said to Gong Yu, bring little Tian back and take good care of him. And, I understand, sister-in-law. Gong Yu nodded her head seriously. Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji supported Yihua back. Meanwhile, Yi Juetian leaned onto Gong Yu's shoulder and said drunkenly, just now, Big Brother said. Can I do that to you? Gong Yu simply wanted to whip Yihua's corpse. Even though this woman is dead, she is still forcefully occupying my man. Stabilizing her good temper, Gong Yu laughed tenderly, Yay, I am your woman, of course I can accompany you. You are the best, I will love you for my entire life. Yi Juetian said in a low voice, then completely fainted. Gong Yu's face was gloomy as she tightly clenched her fists. Damned lowly slut. Inside Yihua's bedroom, something that made Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji depressed was currently happening. I am not going to take off my clothes. I am going to sleep. You guys don't need to care about me. Yihua shouted out with a coquettish tone as he used the blanket to cover himself. Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji were stupefied. Is this Yihua or not? To actually speak with this kind of tone, this is simply ruining our worldview. Darling, be obedient. Let's take off our clothes, take a hot bath, and then go to sleep. Qingye coaxed Yihua as if she was coaxing her son. Back then, Qingye also coaxed her son like this. Meanwhile, Yihua, who was hiding inside the blanket, let out a whining sound. This caused Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji to be astonished. Yihua actually turned into a whining monster. End of this chapter. Chapter 1164. Dong Huang Baiji placed her hands on her waist and shouted, Yihua. If you are still not obedient, I am going to beat you up. Needless to say, it was really effective. Yihua, who was on the bed, immediately became quiet. Qingye opened the blanket and discovered that Yihua was actually curled up into a ball, as if he was very afraid. Originally, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji felt that Yihua was playing around, but they discovered that Yihua was actually trembling. Such a reaction caused the two wives to feel puzzled. I am so scared. Yihua muttered. Hearing Yihua's words, Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji became absent-minded. In their impression, when had Yihua ever been scared? No matter how strong the enemy was, he would always face it calmly and use his strength to crush the enemy. But today, Yihua actually said such words. This made Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji's heart ache. Recently, Yihua had been carrying too many things on his shoulders. The two women sat on the bed and hugged this man who had just let go of his defense. Don't be afraid, we will always be by your side. Qingye said tenderly, and her eyes couldn't help but turn red. Dong Huang Baiji was the same as she lightly caressed Yihua's hair. Yihua muttered, I am scared that I won't be able to save my mother. I just saw her, I don't want to lose her so quickly. We will find a way, we will definitely find a way. Qingye was incomparably sad. Yihua's fear wasn't from his enemies, but from losing his family. No matter how strong Yihua was, he would still try his best to make up for the loss in his life. That kind of loss would make one wish that they were dead, and Yi Juetian was lost today. There is also Wei Chang, that fellow is so strong, yet he disappeared just like that. Don't you know that I am very worried about you? Although Yihua didn't say it, he was actually very worried about Wei Chang. In order to maintain his face as a supreme overlord, he didn't express his worry. Is it easy to be a boss? There is also that Qing Su, I really can't do anything to him. Yihua muttered. This matter was pressing on his chest, and he was completely powerless. This world is so big, where am I supposed to find him? Dong Huang Baiji said tenderly, as if she was comforting her son, Yi Hua, don't be discouraged, we will slowly overcome this difficulty. And, don't be anxious, have a good sleep. Tomorrow, we will work hard together. However, Yi Hua, who was in her bosom, was already letting out a smooth breathing sound. Lowering her head to take a look, this fellow had already fallen asleep. The two of them took a look at each other, then took off Yi Hua's clothes, wiped his body, and let out a sigh of relief. Let him have a good sleep. Recently, Yi Hua has been too tired. Qingye said in a low voice, fearing that she would disturb Yi Hua. Dong Huang Baiji nodded her head, and the two of them quietly exited the bedroom. That night, Yi Hua had a dream. In the leisure bar, everyone was celebrating the arrival of the new year. Everyone had come. His mother was hugging Ali and the others happily. Wei Chang, who went missing, came, and he was even carrying a child, and he seemed to be very happy. There was also that damned fatty Ching Su, who was bragging to Do Fusher with a silly smile on his face. Even the dead Yi appeared. Everyone was present, and the scene was very warm. Yi Hua. Yi Hua. Ye Hua. In the dream, Yi Hua heard someone calling out to him. Who is it that is calling out to me? Yi Hua looked to his left and right, but everyone seemed to be in their own world, as if he didn't exist at all. Yi Hua. Yi Hua. Yi Hua. The voice seemed to be very urgent, and there was even a tone of fear in it. Along with his body shaking violently, Yi Hua suddenly opened his eyes and looked at Qian Yuqing, who had a frightened expression on her face. So that was just a dream. Rubbing onto his forehead, Yi Hua asked faintly, Yuqing, what's wrong? Qian Yuqing's eyes were filled with shock, and she said gravely, Yi Hua, Yi Hua was puzzled. She came back. What? Yi Hua immediately sat up. How is this possible? Didn't Yi die? How is it possible for her to come back? Could this be a dream as well? At this moment, Qingye and Qing Yutong ran over, and their eyes were filled with shock. Yi Hua looked at Qingye and asked gravely, Yi came back. Qingye nodded her head, but Qing Yutong said gravely, but Yi, she seems to be different from before. Dong Huang Baiji let out a sigh, then walked over slowly. She came back to settle the debt. Yi Hua tightly wrinkled his brows. Half an hour ago, no. I should be calling her deity Mengyao now. The current Mengyao was no longer that down and out Yi from before. She was dressed in a pure white dress with hundreds of butterflies on it, a multicolored flower brocade draped over her shoulders, and a heavenly phoenix hairpin on her head. This was the real Yi. She was completely different from the Yi who was dressed in a palace-made dress. The current Yi no longer had a smile on her face, and a cold aura was hovering around her body. Mengyao slightly raised her head and looked towards the city wall, as if everything that happened just yesterday. Under the astonished gazes of the surrounding people, Mengyao walked into Wushu Empire. Everything felt so familiar. Mengyao did not anxiously go to the palace. Instead, she came to that street. That day, I was surrounded by a group of children and was being ridiculed, and he was the one who extended a helping hand, but was that really helping hand? It wasn't. Mengyao continued to walk, and the surrounding people were all discussing in low voices. This woman looks so cold and aloof. Who is she? Mengyao came to the tavern that she stayed in before, and it was still the same room. Sitting in this familiar room, Mengyao laughed at herself, laughing at her own stupidity. I have sacrificed so much for this man, but what I got in return was his distrust. Slowly closing her eyes, Mengyao could still feel the pain and bitterness in her heart. She couldn't help but take out a lollipop and put it in her mouth, and her mood became slightly better. After sitting for a while, Yi disappeared from the room and arrived at the entrance of the palace. Looking at the black armored warriors on both sides of the room and the majestic palace entrance, I, who entered the palace for the first time, felt so happy. That was because I was able to see him, but who knew? Meng Yao walked towards the entrance of the palace. The black armored warriors on both sides immediately blocked Meng Yao and shouted, "Back off." Meng Yao couldn't help but think back to that day. When she came to look for him, she was pushed onto the ground by those black armored warriors over and over again. But now, "You all can't push me, Meng Yao, down. The one who should be pushed down is you all." A terrifying aura exploded out from Meng Yao's body, and the 2 rows of black armored warriors all flew out and fell onto the ground. Meng Yao didn't even take a look at them and walked towards the entrance of the palace. The 2 huge palace doors automatically opened. After walking into the palace, Meng Yao looked at the venue of the wedding ceremony. There was the place where I kneeled down, and there was that heartbroken gaze of his. You didn't die." Just as Meng Yao was reminiscing, Yizizi suddenly appeared at the side and asked curiously while sucking on a lollipop. Meng Yao lowered her head and looked at Yizizi. "I know that this is a person who treats me well, unlike other people." End of this chapter. Chapter 1165. "Yes, I'm not dead," Meng Yao said softly. Yizizi looked at Meng Yao curiously. "Are you here for revenge today?" "Today, I'm here to make up for it, and also to collect a debt," Meng Yao said in a low voice. A murderous aura began to spread out in all directions, as if telling everyone in the palace. "I, Meng Yao, am coming." He was here to seek justice for Yi. Yizizi pursed her lips. "You're very strong now. Why is it like this? Are you undergoing a tribulation?" "You could say that." Meng Yao smiled. She hadn't expected this little girl to know about tribulation. Seeing Meng Yao's smile, Yizizi also smiled. "You should get justice for Yi, but I can't stand on your side." "I understand," Meng Yao said softly. "Good luck." Yizizi rarely smiled. But when she saw the current Yi, she was still very happy. Meng Yao nodded. Yizizi skipped away, but then she turned around and asked, "Have you finished your lollipops?" "Not yet." "Oh, ask me for more when you're done. I have a lot here." "All right." Yizizi didn't say anything else and left. However, very quickly, Qingye and the others all arrived at the scene. Yihua's subordinates were also present as well. They were all attracted by the aura just now. However, when they saw the resurrected Yi, everyone felt puzzled. "Yi!" Qian Yuqing exclaimed. "How was this possible? Yesterday, Yi had turned into fragments and disappeared before his eyes. Why did she appear again today?" Furthermore, it was as if he had become a completely different person. If not for his appearance, he would be a completely different person. Both Qingye and Donghuang Baizhi were unable to believe what was happening before their eyes. Yi, who was in front of them, was actually so cold. "Yi is already dead. My name is Meng Yao," Meng Yao said softly. These empresses treated her very well, and even though she rarely interacted with the others, they didn't look down on her. Qian Yuqing was very confused. "Your name is Meng Yao. What about Yi?" "Yi is me, but my name is Meng Yao." This explanation seemed to make everyone understand something. Absolute Heaven asked in a probing manner, "Are you undergoing tribulation?" "You could say that," Meng Yao said indifferently. Qing Yutong asked curiously, "Meng Yao, why did you come back this time?" Perhaps this was the question that everyone should be concerned about. The killing intent that Meng Yao had just unleashed clearly indicated that she was here for revenge. But then again, this sort of thing was understandable. During the tribulation, it was unavoidable to be bullied. Once the tribulation was over, the magnanimous people wouldn't care, but the petty people would come to settle the score. What's more, Meng Yao was a woman, and she was going through the tribulation of love. Make up for it and collect the debt. Meng Yao said solemnly. Everyone could understand this, but what did he mean by making up for it? Qian Yuqing asked in confusion, Meng Yao, what do you want to make up for? Yi made a mistake. She wasted the Empress Dowager's medicine. I brought the antidote today. It can cure the Empress Dowager's illness. What? Everyone cried out in surprise. If the Empress Dowager's illness could be cured, that would be great news. The four wives were incomparably excited. They didn't expect that Yi would bring the antidote, repaying evil with good. But you owe me. I also want to take it back. Meng Yao said in a deep voice. Donghuang Baizhi asked gravely, Meng Yao, what do you want to take back? I want Gong Yu's life. Meng Yao had already made up her mind to kill. She had come here today to save the Empress Dowager and make up for her mistakes. The second was to kill Gong Yu. This woman had harmed him time and time again. If he didn't kill him, he would feel terrible in his heart. Everyone became silent. Gong Yu is his honor's little brother's woman. I want to kill this woman, but this woman is also able to save his honor's mother's life. How could this be resolved? Everyone was unable to make a choice, and even Qingye and the others were unable to make a choice for Yihua. This was a thorny problem. Meng Yao, wait a moment, we can't make the decision on this matter. Qingye said gravely. I still have to tell Yihua, but with Yihua's personality. He didn't expect that the incident yesterday would happen again today. Qian Yuqing had already disappeared from where she was, preparing to go and tell Yihua. Qingye and the others also followed after them. Meanwhile, Absolute Heaven's subordinates frowned slightly as they looked at Meng Yao. This woman came prepared. Next, it was Qian Yuqing who woke Yihua up. Yihua wore his clothes while feeling puzzled, then walked out of the bedroom. However, the four women didn't tell Yihua that although Meng Yao was able to cure his mother's illness, she still wanted Gong Yu's life. In the eyes of the four women, they felt that Meng Yao wanted to kill Gong Yu because she was jealous. However, what they didn't know was that if not for Gong Yu adding fuel to the fire, Meng Yao wouldn't have appeared at that kind of occasion. Very quickly, Yihua appeared in front of Meng Yao. Looking at Yi who was standing in front of him, Yihua was a bit stupefied. Is this really the Yi who died yesterday? However, looking at Yi who was in front of him, Yihua felt a kind of guilt. This was an emotion that Yihua had never felt before. I, the Supreme Overlord, also have a day where I feel guilty. Meng Yao didn't want to speak too much nonsense and said lightly, I am able to cure Empress Dowager. Yihua turned his head around and took a look at Donghuang Baizhi. Didn't you say that she came here to settle the score? Are you sure? Yihua asked gravely. His mother's illness was already imminent, and he mustn't delay any longer. If it was possible, he would do anything. I am very sure, but I still want Gong Yu's life. Gong Yu's life. Yihua said gravely. Did she want to kill Gong Yu because she was jealous? That's right, because when I was Yi, this Gong Yu tried to frame me multiple times. She must die. Yihua asked gravely, what evidence do you have? Confront her face to face. Meng Yao said calmly. Yihua nodded his head, I can give you a chance, just a chance. Alright, I want to go and cure Empress Dowager right now. Yihua nodded his head. I shall let Yi give it a try. After all, she is also a kind of hope. After Meng Yao left, Zhu Tian came in front of Yihua and said respectfully, Your Honor. What's wrong? She was facing her tribulation earlier. Zhu Tian said in a low voice. And then Zhu Tian said respectfully, Your Honor, from the strength that she displayed, I'm afraid that she has already surpassed the supreme overlord that we are familiar with. After hearing that, Yihua immediately wrinkled his brows. You mean to say that the supreme overlord can still become stronger? That's right, I'm afraid that this Meng Yao is living in a plane that we are not aware of. Yihua suddenly thought of something, and that was the rumor about the surname Dongwang that he heard in the deity's realm's palace. I'm afraid that there is a connection between them. Got it, let's wait and see first. Seems like my title is going to rise. However, I am already used to this title, and I am not used to changing it. End of this chapter. Chapter 1166. Zhu Tian smiled and said, Your Honor, it is just a title, there is no need to worry. Let's deal with the current situation first before thinking about other things. Yihua said lightly. Yes. Your Honor. Yihua immediately rushed towards his mother's bedroom. Meanwhile, inside the bedroom, Lu Jing was also incomparably shocked when she saw a Yi who had revived. However, this Yi had a different kind of flavor to her. Lu Jing didn't really like this Yi and felt that the previous Yi was better. Although she was stupid, she was very sincere. Meng Yao looked at the Empress Dowager in front of her and said lightly, Empress Dowager, wasting your medicine is my fault. Therefore, as compensation, I will cure your illness, and you will no longer have any worries. At this moment, Yihua walked into the room and stood at the side, not saying anything. Yi, what are you? Lu Jing asked puzzledly. Empress Dowager, I am not Yi right now, I am Meng Yao right now. Meng Yao. Lu Jing mumbled. I still feel that Yi sounds better. Meng Yao didn't say anything and stretched out her palm. A bright red flower petal condensed on her palm and Meng Yao said lightly, This is the Bloody Sun cleansing flower, it can cure all poisons in the world. Yihua asked faintly, It is actually a flower, why is it a flower petal? Meng Yao explained slowly, There is only one Bloody Sun cleansing flower, and it has 11 petals. This is the last petal, and there is no second petal in the world. Yihua remained silent and looked towards Zhu Tian who was at the side. Zhu Tian had done some research on this. Zhu Tian nodded his head. I can give it a try. Yi Yuanqing who was standing at the side deeply wrinkled her eyebrows. Is this flower petal really so mystical? I have never heard of it before. Empress Dowager, please keep this flower petal in your mouth. Meng Yao said lightly and stretched out the flower petal in her hand. Don't look at how Meng Yao seemed to be talking about an ordinary item right now. However, if the news of this Bloody Sun cleansing flower were to be spread out, everyone would definitely go crazy and fight for it. There were a lot of people whose lives were on the line, and there were even more people who were waiting for the medicine to save their lives. The value of this flower was even higher than the things in Yihua's warehouse. However, the reason why Yi took out the Bloody Sun cleansing flower was because she wanted to cut off her identity as Yi and not owe anyone anymore. Lu Jing took a look at Yihua, and Yihua nodded his head. Lu Jing let out a sigh of relief, picked up the flower petal in Meng Yao's hand, and put it in her mouth. A refreshing feeling spread throughout his body in an instant. This refreshing feeling quickly solidified, and his body felt warm as if he was bathing in the sun. Yihua looked at the weak red light that was emitting out from his mother's body and wrinkled his brows as he waited quietly. Suddenly, a cloud of strange green smoke emerged from Lu Jing's head. Reaching out with his hand, Absolute Heaven made a grabbing motion, and a green smoke floated above his palm. What poison is this? Yihua asked gravely. Zhu Tian shook his head, if Qing Su is here, he should know. Then let's keep it and show it to Qing Su when he returns. Yes. Taking out a bottle, Absolute Heaven guided the cyan smoke into the bottle. However, the cyan smoke seemed to have a life of its own as it crazily smashed about inside the bottle. Yihua felt that the person who poisoned his mother was definitely extraordinary. Furthermore, to be able to master a poison that even I am unable to cure, this person's background is even more extraordinary. The main point is, why did he poison his mother? Why? Lu Jing's complexion became more and more rosy, and the wrinkles on her face gradually disappeared. Some of her white hair also became black, and it seemed as if she had become younger by tens of years. After a long time, Lu Jing opened her eyes. She felt that her entire body was relaxed. It has been a long time since I felt this way. Oh no, Meng Yao, thank you. Lu Jing said with a smile. Even my son is unable to cure my mother, and yet, this Meng Yao is able to cure my mother. This is truly unbelievable. Yihua walked to his mother's side and asked with concern, "Mother, are you feeling better?" I am feeling much better. Lu Jing patted on the back of her son's hand and consoled. Zhu Tian, come over and check on her. Yihua still needed to confirm that Lu Jing was fine. Zhu Tian walked respectfully to Lu Jing's side, and a white aura immediately wrapped around Lu Jing. After a while, Zhu Tian said respectfully, "There is nothing wrong with Empress Dowager, she has completely recovered." Yihua let out a heavy breath. As long as my mother's illness is cured, the stone in my heart will be put down. Qian Yuqing was very happy. The illness that had been bothering my mother for thousands of years has finally been cured. Yihua looked at Meng Yao, and suddenly, he didn't know what to say. This woman returned evil with good, and ruthlessly slapped my face. I, the Supreme Overlord, have indeed underestimated her. Yihua was also a person who was able to let go of things. Since she had saved my mother, I naturally have to say what I have to say. Meng Yao, thank you. I owe you a favor. Yihua said calmly. To be able to save my mother, I, the Supreme Overlord, naturally wouldn't treat you unfairly. This was the first time that Qingye heard Yihua thanking someone. After all, the number of people that could make Yihua thank someone was very few, and the number of people that could make Yihua thank someone so sincerely was even fewer. However, Qingye also discovered that the current Yihua had become more mature. If it was in the past, Yihua would definitely be the kind of person who cared about his face no matter what. This kind of Yihua is the kind of man that I like, someone who dares to take responsibility for his actions and is never hypocritical. Meng Yao said calmly, "There is no need to thank me, this is something that I should be compensating you for. Now, isn't it time for you to compensate me?" After hearing what Meng Yao said, Lu Jing was confused. Meng Yao, what kind of compensation do you want? Tell me, I will do my best to satisfy you. Meng Yao looked towards Yihua. What do you want me to say? Yihua said gravely, if you were framed, and the evidence is conclusive, I will allow you to deal with it freely. All right. Go and call Yi Juetian and Gong Yu over. Yihua said coldly. For this Meng Yao to be so confident, it seems like there is someone behind this matter. Gong Yu. Is she that daring? Meng Yao said coldly, no need, I will personally go and call them over. After finished speaking, Meng Yao disappeared from where she was. Of course, she knew where Yi Juetian's bedroom was. Yihua, what is going on? Meng Yao went to look for Yi Juetian. Lu Jing asked worriedly. Yihua shook his head, Mother, Meng Yao went to look for Gong Yu and seek justice. Let us go and take a look, we have to treat this matter seriously. Qingye and the others nodded their heads. We indeed cannot be careless. I will go as well. Lu Jing said lightly as she stood up. Right now, her body was very stable, unlike in the past where she had a feeling that she was on the verge of falling. Yihua brought everyone and disappeared from the room and arrived outside of Yi Juetian's bedroom. At this moment, the door was already pushed open. Seems like Meng Yao had already walked in. Meng Yao had indeed walked in, and she was even looking at the man and woman on the bed. However, Meng Yao never expected that right after Yi died, you would actually be together with this woman. Yi Juetian. Do you still have me in your heart? Do I, Yi, have no place in your heart? Or could it be that the two of you are celebrating my death? Yi Juetian seemed to be able to sense that there was someone beside the bed. He closed his eyes and rubbed his forehead. End of this chapter. Chapter 1167. Yi Juetian slowly opened his eyes, and a blurry figure appeared in front of him. He furrowed his brows and rubbed his eyes. The blurry figure gradually became clear, and as it became clear, the expression on Yi Juetian's face froze. This is Yi. Who was this woman? Why did she look so much like Yi? Yi Juetian did not dare to confirm that Yi did not have this kind of aura. However, this woman's aura was very strong, and even her clothes were very luxurious. Yi had never been like this before. Who are you? Yi Juetian asked curiously. Why did this woman run into his room? Moreover, she was standing beside the bed. Could she be Yi's elder or younger sister? In Yi Juetian's heart, Yi was already dead, so how could she have revived? Moreover, Meng Yao and Yi's auras were very different, so Yi Juetian would not think otherwise. Hearing Yi Juetian's words, Meng Yao coldly laughed in her heart. Right now, she was standing in front of him, and he was asking her who she was. At this time, Gong Yu sweetly called out, Ju Tian. Yi Juetian's gaze focused, and a fiery body hugged him from behind. When he turned his head to look, he immediately cried out in surprise, Gong Yu, why are you here? Gong Yu said softly, you're so annoying. You only know how to bully others. When Meng Yao heard this, she wanted nothing more than to skin this woman alive. However, Gong Yu slowly opened her eyes and was shocked to see someone standing beside her bed. When Gong Yu saw the woman in front of her, Gong Yu's pupils gradually shrunk, and with a shocked expression, she said, You didn't die. Gong Yu, do you want me dead? Meng Yao asked coldly. At this moment, Yi Juetian was dumbfounded. He looked at Meng Yao in a daze. You're Yi. You survived. Yi is already dead. The one standing in front of you is called me. Meng Yao. Gong Yu's soul had already left her body. Her delicate body was trembling, and all she could think about was why she wasn't dead. Why did he come back? Why did she come back? However, Yi Juetian was even more dumbfounded. Where was he? What was he doing? Why is she sleeping together with Gong Yu, and furthermore, she's the kind that isn't wearing any clothes? Is the one in front of me Yi? Why was this happening? Put on your clothes and come out. Meng Yao said coldly. This was already the second time. The first time might have been Gong Yu's scheme, but this time. Was this also part of Gong Yu's plan? Caught red-handed in bed. Yi Juetian. What else do you have to say? I, Meng Yao, must be blind to have fallen for a man like you. Yi Hua and the others stood outside and waited. Seeing Meng Yao walking out with a gloomy face, Yi Hua wrinkled his brows. Little Tian must have been drunk yesterday, right? Could it be just now? Qingye and Dong Huang Baiji were also thinking the same thing. The two brothers were both drunk yesterday. Yi Hua is still fine, but could it be that Yi Juetian is? Not long after, Yi Juetian and Gong Yu walked out. Both of their expressions were not very good. Yi Juetian's mind was still in a daze, while Gong Yu was completely frightened. The smart girl seemed to understand something, and her face turned pale. At this moment, Yihua said gravely, Meng Yao, if you have anything to say, just say it. Meng Yao looked at the man she had once loved, and no longer had any lingering feelings for him. She turned her gaze to Gong Yu. When Meng Yao looked at him like that, he became even more uneasy. He felt that Yi had become more imposing today. That kind of killing intent was released without any concealment. This made Gong Yu feel uneasy. At this moment, Yi Juetian asked blankly, Are you really Yi? Everyone did not say anything. For something like this to happen, it might be heaven's will. This means that Yi Juetian and Yi are not fated to be together. Meng Yao said indifferently, It is no longer important whether I am Yi or not. I did not come here today to look for you. You are also not worth me coming here to look for. Yi Juetian was speechless. I only have myself to blame. I can't blame anyone else. Gong Yu, are you going to end your own life, or are you going to let me do it? Meng Yao asked. If not for this woman, I might not have gone to explain myself yesterday, and I might not have been disheartened. If I had stayed in the woodshed the entire time, I might have had a chance to turn things around. However, it was already too late to say anything now. Gong Yu stabilized her state of mind. Right now, I cannot afford to panic. Why do I have to end my own life? Also, who exactly are you? Is it Yi or someone else? Gong Yu was a smart person. I cannot continue being passive. I have to take the initiative to counterattack. Big Brother Emperor is standing at the side, which means that he is currently observing. As long as Yi does not have any evidence, I will be fine. Luckily, all of the evidence is gone. Yi, even if you are able to come back to life, so what? If you want to kill me, Gong Yu, do it in your next life. Meng Yao knew that Gong Yu was cunning. If not, when she was still Yi, she would have been tricked time and time again, and believed this hypocritical woman. I am Yi. However, my real name is Meng Yao. Meng Yao said indifferently. There is nothing to hide, this is my identity. Hearing that Yi admitted her identity, Yi Juetian's face became even paler. I am really unworthy. What face do I have to face Yi and do things that let Yi down? Gong Yu said with a slight smile, so it is Meng Yao, why are you pretending to be the weak Yi? Although Gong Yu's counterattack was very sharp, in actuality, everyone wanted to know the answer to this question. Going through tribulation was just Zhu Tian's guess. Meng Yao did not say why she was going through tribulation. However, the current Meng Yao did not plan to hide it anymore, and directly said, because I am going through tribulation. Hearing Meng Yao's words, everyone felt relieved. Normally, when going through tribulation, one would turn into an ordinary person and go through tempering. Everyone seemed to know what tribulation Yi was going through. Lu Jing also never expected that Meng Yao was actually going through tribulation. Truly, one cannot judge a book by its cover. Back then, I still thought that Yi was just an ordinary woman and was not worthy of Xiao Tian. However, only now did I know how powerful Yi was. It should be Xiao Tian who was not worthy of Yi. Qingye and the others had never thought that Yi was going through tribulation. Back then, they were still in favor of Yi Juetian, and Qian Yuqing was even more so. If Yi Juetian and Yi had gotten together back then, how great of a thing would that have been? However, Qingye and the others might not have thought that Yi was going through tribulation. Even if there was no tribulation, there would still be another tribulation that would separate them. If not, how could it be called a tribulation? This was all a plot that was arranged by the heavens. After Meng Yao finished speaking, she asked faintly, Gong Yu, you plotted against me time and time again, do you know your crime? Meng Yao, why would I plot against you? Did you misunderstand something? Gong Yu asked confusedly. Her expression was very on point. When a person is lying, their acting skills would instantly rise, and their intelligence would also directly soar to the top. Meng Yao laughed lightly. Look at this Gong Yu, even now, she is still stubbornly resisting. You are the one who told me. The matter about me being a spy. I didn't know about it before. Meng Yao said lightly. End of this chapter. Chapter 1168. Yi Hua's face sunk. I have never told anyone that Yi is a spy. Just now, I was still wondering how Yi found out about this. Could it be that Gong Yu was the one who told her? Gong Yu sighed softly. Yi, when did I tell you about this? Don't spout nonsense. Meng Yao knew that Gong Yu would deny it, so she continued, you asked me to appear yesterday and explain that I'm not a spy. You comforted me by telling me that it would be more effective if I explained it in front of everyone. But you also know that once I appear and explain this matter, the Emperor will definitely be furious. You don't even need to do anything, just borrow the Emperor's hand to kill me. You even came to induce me to commit suicide. That poison was also given to me by you. Hearing Meng Yao's words, everyone was shocked. Who would have thought that Gong Yu was involved in all of this? So Yi was a victim. Right now, Yi Hua's expression became grave. If the entire matter was manipulated by Gong Yu from behind the scenes, then that would mean that Gong Yu is challenging my bottom line. Gong Yu actually schemed against me, and the one who caused me to lose all face is actually Gong Yu. Hearing Yi's words, Yi Juetian immediately believed her. He turned to look at Gong Yu and coldly asked, Gong Yu, you're not a good person. Isn't that right? Gong Yu immediately put on a wronged look. Ju Tian, could it be that you don't believe me? I've always been helping you. How could I possibly harm you like this? Meng Yao laughed when she saw that Gong Yu was still putting on an act. Gong Yu, you're the best at making use of other people's kindness. I'd like to ask everyone, if I didn't have anyone to help me, would I have been able to get into the crowd of palace maids so easily? Even the clothes were prepared by Gong Yu in advance for that kind of occasion. I didn't expect you to accuse me like this. Did you misunderstand something? Absolute Heaven and I are already innocent, so don't be jealous, okay? I beg of you. She hugged Yi Juetian's leg tightly, as if she wanted Yi Juetian to say a few good words for her. However, Yi Juetian trusted Yi and didn't say anything. This made Gong Yu feel very sad. I've done so many bad things, but it's all for you. Do you think I want to do those bad things? I, Gong Yu, have never done such a shameful thing before. Why can't you speak up for me? Even one sentence would be good. Do you think I've sacrificed less than her? No. I, Gong Yu, have sacrificed much more. From a kind woman, she turned into a vicious woman. You forced me to do this. You only have yourself to blame. You're the one who came between me and absolute heaven. If you don't appear, how could absolute heaven possibly love you? Because he was jealous, he came back to kill someone. This reason seems to be quite sufficient. Yi Hua didn't express his opinion and listened quietly. Meng Yao felt that she had never met such a shameless woman who could turn black into white. Gong Yu, when I was in prison. After having sex with him, you even purposely used the copper mirror to let me see it, and after that, you even came over to console me. Gong Yu. You are truly so scheming. Is simply being played around by you, and I am even thinking of how to repay you, ha ha ha. While speaking, Meng Yao was laughing at herself. Hearing Meng Yao's laughter, everyone felt a sense of helplessness and sorrow. Yi Juetian once again looked towards Gong Yu, who was hugging onto his leg, seemingly asking if such a thing really happened. Absolute Heaven, I didn't do such a thing, I really didn't. I also don't know why Yi would want to fabricate such a thing, I really don't know. Gong Yu's tears flowed down like rain, vividly portraying the feeling of a wronged woman. Gong Yu, who was sobbing, looked towards Meng Yao and said while choking with sobs, I treated you so well. When you were on the verge of death, I was the one who came to save you. You can't wrongly accuse me like this. That's just because you didn't have an excuse to kill me, that's all. You have always been looking for an opportunity, and yesterday was the best opportunity. You let everyone know that Wushu Empire's emperor forced a palace maid to death. Meng Yao said gravely. Gong Yu's heart sunk, but she still said with sorrow, nonsense, what evidence do you have to prove it? Gong Yu, you finally said this. I don't have any evidence, because you have always been very cautious when doing things, and you have cleared away all evidence. After hearing what Yihua said, Gong Yu let out a sigh of relief, then shouted out towards Yihua, Big brother, I was wronged, I am innocent. No matter what, Gong Yu was still Yi Juetian's fiancé, so how could he kill her just because of a few words from an outsider? It was very sloppy. Yihua asked gravely, Meng Yao, you don't have any evidence. I don't have proof, but Empress Qian Yuqing does, Meng Yao said. Qian Yuqing was stunned. Since when did she have evidence? Everyone looked at Qian Yuqing. Even Gong Yu looked at Qian Yuqing in disbelief. Since when did sister-in-law have her own evidence? Impossible. He did not leave any traces behind. Meng Yao said softly, Empress, please lend me the heart gem from yesterday. Following Meng Yao's words, everyone came to a sudden realization. Meng Yao indeed did not have any evidence, but the spirit gem was meant to deal with situations like this. When Gong Yu heard about the spirit gem, she was dumbfounded as if she had been struck by lightning. Yesterday, Gong Yu had seen the spirit gem, and because he had used it, her identity had been clarified. But today, she used the same method to deal with him. You lowly servant. If I had known earlier, I wouldn't have saved you back then. I would have let you die in pain. Qian Yuqing passed the spirit gem into Meng Yao's hands. Meng Yao held on to the spirit gem and walked towards Gong Yu. The grievance on Gong Yu's face completely disappeared, and what replaced it was fear. If Big Brother Emperor were to find out that I was the one manipulating everything behind the scenes, I will definitely die. Yihua looked at Gong Yu, who had a huge change in expression. He already knew the result. I completely didn't expect that Gong Yu was the one manipulating everything behind the scenes. The matter that happened yesterday caused my Wushu Empire to become a laughingstock. Everyone said that I am awesome, yet I forced a palace maid who doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken to death. I was actually used as a knife by this Gong Yu. This is simply a humiliation. Everyone looked at Gong Yu, who had a huge change in expression, and found it hard to believe. In everyone's eyes, Gong Yu's image was that of a gentle and virtuous woman. I completely didn't expect that Gong Yu actually wanted to borrow Yihua's hand to kill Yi. Yi Juetian looked at Gong Yu, who was beneath his feet, especially that expression of fear. I already know. This woman caused Yi's death. Why does she have to be so cruel? Just how did Yi offend you? You made Yi hate me, you didn't allow me to look for Yi, and you made up such a reason. Now that I think about it, it is truly laughable. If I didn't pay attention to Gong Yu back then, the ending might not have become like this. End of this chapter. Chapter 1169. Yi Juetian shifted his feet, but discovered that Gong Yu was hugging him tightly, very tightly. Of course, Gong Yu could only do this because she felt that only Yi Juetian could save her. Meng Yao stood in front of Gong Yu and stretched out her hand. The heart gem was especially eye-catching in Gong Yu's eyes. Why does such a stone exist in this world? It was all fake. It was all a lie. Gong Yu, prove your innocence. Meng Yao said indifferently, but her eyes were filled with killing intent. Today, Gong Yu must die. Gong Yu didn't reach for the heart gem. Qian Yuqing and Yi Yuanqing couldn't help but think of Huang Yun. On that day, he didn't dare to take it, because once he took it, all of his lies would be revealed. However, Gong Yu was the same today. Lu Jing sighed softly. Daji, help me back. Yes. Daji respectfully supported Lu Jing and left. Lu Jing no longer wanted to watch. The truth was already in front of her. This woman had harmed his 2 sons. There was nothing to pity. Looking at Gong Yu, Meng Yao asked, Gong Yu, what's wrong? Prove your innocence and let everyone know that I wanted you dead because I was jealous. Gong Yu's face was deathly pale, and she did not pay any attention to Meng Yao. She hugged onto Yi Juetian's leg and pleaded, Juetian, I didn't do it, you have to believe me, I really didn't do it, help me please, help me say something, okay? Yi Juetian said gravely, Gong Yu, hold on to the spirit gem and prove yourself. No. This thing is fake. It's fake. You can't believe it. Gong Yu roared, her delicate face contorted into a sinister expression. Looking at her big brother emperor who was not too far away, Gong Yu frantically crawled and hugged onto Yi Hua's leg while begging, Big brother, you have to believe me, I didn't do such a thing, I won't harm you. Gong Yu, who was crying like rain, raised her head and looked towards Yi Hua. However, there wasn't a single bit of ripple on Yi Hua's face. This caused Gong Yu to be extremely afraid as she knelt beside Qinya's feet. Sister-in-law, save me. I didn't do it. Qinya remained silent and slowly turned her head away. Gong Yu then kneeled in front of Dong Huang Baiji. Sister-in-law, I beg of you, can you help me say something? I beg of you. I am Zhu Tian's fiancé. Why don't you guys help me? Gong Yu crawled in front of Qin Yutong, then crawled in front of Qian Yuqing. However, no one said a single word, because the truth was right in front of their eyes. This woman had turned Voidless Empire's royal family into a heartless empire, and she had even become the joke of the entire northern region, becoming the laughingstock of the people. Just because of that bit of jealousy, Gong Yu's knees were already scraped. She slowly crawled in front of Yi Juetian, raised her head to look at Yi Juetian, and said in a low voice, Juetian, why didn't you guys help me? Why did you join hands with outsiders to bully me? Gong Yu put her hands on the ground, crying loudly. Gradually, she stood up, looked at everyone and shouted, It was you who brought me here. You made me leave my parents. You were the ones who forced me to marry him. Now you want me to die. How could I, Gong Yu, resist? Do you know the poison I gave Yi? So it's for myself. I like absolute heaven, I love him. I would do anything for him. But this woman. Yet, he appeared between me and absolute heaven. Yi Juetian. Do you even have me in your heart? For you, I went to hell. As for you. Yet, from start to finish, you never even looked me in the eye. She sacrificed herself for you. Can't you see that I sacrificed myself for you? Why do you only have her in your eyes, and not even a bit of my shadow? Why do you have to be so cruel to me? All of you are bullying an outsider like me. Gong Yu roared and questioned Yi Juetian, revealing all of the grievances in her heart. After hearing what Gong Yu said, Yi Juetian went into a daze. He remembered that back then, he was the one who called Gong Yu over. When he first came over, Yi Juetian felt that Gong Yu was a good girl. However, he didn't expect that Gong Yu would walk step by step into the abyss. Yi Juetian looked at Gong Yu, who was beside him. She sacrificed herself for me, is she wrong? She used extreme methods, and her goal was to get rid of the Yi in my mind. However, I, Yi Juetian, only like Yi. If I were to say that I was wrong, I shouldn't have chosen any girl's name back then. I should have bravely told big brother, sister-in-law, and mother that I have a woman that I like, and that woman is called Yi. Perhaps that would have been the best result, no one would have been harmed. From Gong Yu's point of view, there was nothing wrong with her loving Yi Juetian. However, what was wrong was that this was an ill-fated relationship, and both of them were harming each other. Women are able to understand women, Qingye and the others seemed to be able to understand what Yi Juetian was saying. Of course, Donghuang Baiji was also one of them. Back then, when the two of them bumped into each other, how could they not have any thoughts towards each other? After all, there was only one man in the world, and both of them wanted to have one for themselves. However, back then, Yi Juetian's attitude was unyielding. I, the Supreme Overlord, want two women, so what can I do? However, Yi Juetian was different. Perhaps, he wasn't as fickle as Yi Juetian. He was single-minded towards his feelings, and he firmly believed that Yi would be Yi. If Yi Juetian was also fickle, he would probably be able to have two beauties in his embrace. After all, what Gong Yu cared about was that Yi Juetian didn't have her in his heart, and Yi was the kind of girl that was easy to talk to. However, it was a pity that one's personality determined everything, and from the very start, it was already a tragedy. Right now, Gong Yu had already admitted to her crimes, and everything that happened was premeditated by her. As for who was in the wrong first, it was already unclear. When Meng Yao heard Gong Yu's complaints, she felt a bit moved in her heart. Gong Yu was brought into the palace, while I entered the palace willingly. Being surrounded by this square-shaped palace, who would be able to understand the pain I had to endure? However, the matter of Gong Yu framing me was a fact. It was something that couldn't be erased. A pitiful person would definitely have a hateful side to them. Yi Hua, how do you plan to deal with Gong Yu? Qingye quietly walked in front of Yi Hua and asked in a low voice. To be honest, Gong Yu's crimes were clearly punishable by death. After all, she had brought shame to the entire Wushu Empire. However, can I blame all of this on Gong Yu? If you didn't have those pedantic thoughts back then, would Gong Yu have become such a vicious woman? From being kind to being vicious, there is a process, and no one is born to be a vicious person. Yi Hua slightly wrinkled his brows. If this matter had happened in the past, I, the Supreme Overlord, would definitely have killed Gong Yu. This matter concerns the honor of the entire group. However, I, the Supreme Overlord, am also at fault in this matter. I forced Gong Yu too ruthlessly, if not, how could such a situation have occurred? In actuality, the matter that happened yesterday was all caused by me. In fact, I feel that the reason why Gong Yu became so vicious is also because of me. End of this chapter. Chapter 1170. Originally, there was a better solution, but it was useless. In the end, it made everyone unhappy. At this moment, Donghuang Baiji walked over and asked softly, Yi Hua, can you deal with this matter leniently? Gong Yu indeed deserves to die, but she only cares about little Tian wholeheartedly. Yi Hua took a deep breath. If I don't kill Gong Yu, wouldn't it seem like I have become kind-hearted? But, if I kill Gong Yu, wouldn't I be too vicious, too ruthless? A woman was captured by me, came here with the determination to die, but ended up falling in love with little Tian, and because of my stubbornness, she ended up walking onto a path of no return. How do you all think we should deal with this matter? Yi Hua asked gravely. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji took a look at each other. Donghuang Baiji had experience in this aspect, and she said softly, what Gong Yu did indeed has a huge influence, but in actuality, we are also at fault. We shouldn't let her bear the responsibility alone, don't you think so, Yi Hua? Hearing that, Yi Hua let out a breath. What Donghuang Baiji said is right, Yi Hua has no choice but to consider it. Qingye sighed and said, Yi Hua, Gong Yu was, after all, brought into the palace by little Tian, but little Tian doesn't like her, which is why he did such a thing. No matter what, she is still little Tian's fiancé, killing one of our own. It seems a bit. Qingye didn't finish her sentence, but she was also telling Yihua that Gong Yu didn't deserve to die. Suddenly, a terrifying aura spread out. Yihua raised his head and took a look, and his expression became grave. Qian Yuqing and the others looked at Gong Yu in disbelief, as if they were looking at a second Yi. This terrifying aura was being emitted out from Gong Yu's body. Right now, Gong Yu didn't have the slightest bit of reluctance, and her body was emitting out a faint white light. Gong Yu herself had the strength of an overlord, but right now, Gong Yu chose to end her own life. To her, yesterday and today were like heaven and hell. In this palace, there was nothing for her to miss anymore, even if it was the man that she deeply loved who was just standing at the side and bullying her together with Yi. Everyone was the same. At this moment, Gong Yu said lightly, "You all don't have to do it, I will do it myself. You all should be satisfied now, right?" Gong Yu looked at Meng Yao and said faintly. Meng Yao was speechless. However, Yi Juetian, who was standing at the side, felt very uncomfortable. This was the first time he heard Gong Yu's thoughts, and he was very astonished. "I completely didn't expect that Gong Yu would think like this. She did so many things, and it was actually all for me, all for the sake of making Yi disappear from my mind." Yi Juetian was unable to accept this kind of ending at all. He had plotted against Yi for his sake. Did that mean that he had also indirectly caused Yi's death? Did Gong Yu treat him well? Thinking about it now, Gong Yu was very caring and considerate towards me. However, previously, I only had Yi in my heart, and I completely neglected Yi's thoughtfulness. This caused Gong Yu to become even more intense, and hate Yi even more. It was all his fault. He was the one who had harmed them. Yi Juetian suddenly extended his hand and grabbed Gong Yu's wrist. This was the first time that Yi Juetian had taken the initiative to grab Gong Yu's wrist. This caused Gong Yu to stare blankly, and even Meng Yao, who was standing at the side, was dumbfounded. She had no idea what Yi Juetian was trying to do. Yi Hua and the others were very puzzled as well. What is Xiao Tian trying to do? Yi Juetian seemed to have thought it through, and seemed to have calmed down a lot. "None of you are in the wrong, the one who is in the wrong is me, Gong Yu. You don't have to die, the one who should die is me." Yi Juetian suddenly laughed. "The reason why I ended up in such a situation is because I lacked courage, was sloppy, and was indecisive. No wonder everyone says that I only look like Big Brother, but the way I do things is completely different." From this matter, it was clear that Yi Juetian finally understood how cowardly he was today. If back then, he had rejected those partners and didn't ask Gong Yu to come over, she would still be living together with her parents right now, and would even be respected by everyone. However, now that she was here, she could only stay by my side and treat me well. However, have I ever treated her well before? Never. I had only treated her as a friend. At that time, I should have mustered up my courage, directly brought Yi into the palace, and boldly admitted that I liked this woman, and that I wouldn't marry anyone else but her. To be honest, if Yi Juetian had really done that, Yi Hua and Lu Jing wouldn't be able to do anything about it. However, Yi Juetian was an obedient child, and he didn't dare to go against Yi Hua's words. "You want to die for her?" Meng Yao asked gravely, her expression clearly not good. "Just how did this woman harm me? Have you still not seen it clearly? Back then, when I was being bullied by so many people, did you even come out and speak up for me? And now, you actually dare to say that you want to die for her? Yi Juetian. Are you still a human?" Gong Yu was stupefied as she looked at Yi Juetian in disbelief. He finally spoke up for me. He finally spoke up for me." 2 streams of tears flowed down Gong Yu's cheeks. "Even if I am going to die right now, I am still happy." Yi Juetian looked at Meng Yao and said lightly, I was the one who harmed you, and I also harmed her. The two of you are actually innocent, and the one who is guilty is me, Yi Juetian. I am not worthy of the love of the two of you. Boom! A ferocious aura erupted from Yi Juetian's body and soared straight into the clouds. Everyone in Voidless Empire was looking at this golden light. What happened in the palace? This aura is so terrifying. To ordinary people, the aura that an overlord is giving off is a rather terrifying existence. Big brother, let me bear all of the wrongs. Help me say a sentence of apology on behalf of mother. Your son is unfilial and cannot continue serving by her side anymore. Yi Juetian said with a tone of righteousness. Yi Hua snorted coldly, and an even more ferocious aura immediately emitted out from his body, directly sending Yi Juetian flying. Yi Juetian was like a cannonball that pierced through the entire palace. Idiot! Yi Hua shouted out coldly. To commit suicide for the sake of two women, I, the Supreme Overlord, have lost all of my face. Things happened too quickly. Meng Yao immediately reacted and disappeared from where she was, and Gong Yu did the same. Right now, Yi Juetian had already fainted. How could he possibly withstand a single attack from Yi Hua? It was already good enough that he didn't die. Seeing that Yi Juetian was fine, Meng Yao let out a breath of relief. However, when she thought about it, why did I have to worry about him? Gong Yu's situation was much simpler. She sat beside Yi Juetian and hugged him in her embrace. Gong Yu felt very happy in her heart. She suddenly felt that all of the things that she did were all worth it. Even if she were to die now, it was all worth it. Meng Yao looked at Gong Yu, who was hugging Yi Juetian, and ignored her, walking to the side. At this moment, Yi Hua brought everyone over. Gong Yu! Yi Hua shouted out. Gong Yu bowed respectfully, Your Majesty. The death penalty is unavoidable, but punishment is unavoidable. This emperor shall sentence you to life imprisonment in the heavenly prison. Do you have any objections? Thank you, brothers, for your bounty. Thank you, brothers, for your support. End of this chapter. Chapter 1171. Qinya, Dongwang Baiji, and the others didn't expect that Yi Hua would deal with the matter in such a way, and they all let out a sigh of relief in their hearts. This time, Gong Yu had indeed committed a grave crime, and yet, Yi Hua was actually willing to spare her life. From this, it could be seen that Yi Hua knew that he was in the wrong. If not, it would be impossible for him to do such a thing. Gong Yu was actually quite pitiful. She had degenerated into a bad woman for little Tian. Meng Yao didn't say anything when she heard the verdict. Gong Yu respectfully kowtowed, Thank you, Your Majesty, for not killing me. Gong Yu's attitude of admitting her mistake was rather good, and she did not anger Yi Hua. Guards, bring Gong Yu to the dungeon. Yi Hua shouted out lightly. After that, he threw out a seal and sealed Gong Yu's cultivation. Without Yi Hua's main body dispelling the seal, Gong Yu was just an ordinary person. Two black-armored warriors appeared by Gong Yu's side and took her away. Gong Yu was most reluctant to part with Yi Juetian. She did not know when she would be able to see Yi Juetian again. However, since Yi Juetian had spoken up for her, she did not have any regrets. Actually, women's requirements were very low, they just wanted to be cared for. Gong Yu could feel Yi Juetian's concern for Yi, but Yi could not feel Yi Juetian's concern, and Yi Juetian could not feel Gong Yu's concern either. It was too chaotic. Bring Xiao Tian away. Yi Hua said faintly. Qinya and the others nodded their heads, then brought Yi Juetian away, leaving behind only Yi Hua and Meng Yao. Dealing with Gong Yu wasn't something that Yi Hua instructed Meng Yao to do, and it was something that Yi Hua had to deal with. As for the final result, it wasn't something that Yi Hua was seeking Meng Yao's opinion on. After all, this was Voidless Empire's matter. However, Yi Hua still said gravely, Meng Yao, I owe you a favor. He then took out a jade slip and said, crush this jade slip. No matter what happens, this emperor will settle it for you. Meng Yao didn't stand on ceremony and took the jade slip. You don't seem to have any opinion about this punishment. Yi Hua lit up a stick of cigarette and asked curiously. Meng Yao replied, she's just a pitiful woman. As a god, I shouldn't be so calculative with her. At first, Meng Yao had wanted Gong Yu dead, but after hearing Gong Yu's story, her heart was moved. He was an exalted god, and he was going through a tribulation. This was a test from the heavens, and he shouldn't be so serious. Just as Gong Yu had said, he might be jealous. Meng Yao, in actuality, Xiao Tian and I have an agreement. Yi Hua said faintly. This could also be considered as saying a few good words for his little brother, trying to make up to him as much as possible. Agreement? Yes, I won't kill you, he won't see you. Yi Hua said faintly. Meng Yao was slightly shaken after hearing this. After a while, she said lightly, this is just a relationship tribulation. Moreover, I don't see it that seriously. All right. See you again, Meng Yao said indifferently. Yi Hua nodded his head, and Meng Yao disappeared from where she was. However, Yi Hua could see that this woman was forcefully enduring. Meng Yao returned to her training room and took out her handkerchief. She put the lollipop in her mouth and couldn't hold back her tears anymore. How could he not take it seriously? Yi Hua extinguished the cigarette butt and returned to his mother's bedroom. Yi Juetian was lying on the bed. That slap just now was not light at all, and he had yet to wake up. Yi Hua, what happened to Xiao Tian? Lu Jing asked worriedly. Qinya and the others didn't dare to say it, and thus, Yi Hua was the one to tell them. Yi Hua let out a sigh, it's nothing much, I just hit him. Ah, you hit him so heavily. Lu Jing said lightly. Yi Hua felt that Yi Juetian's irresolute and indecisive personality was brought out by his mother's pampering. Therefore, this was precisely the reason why I, the Supreme Overlord, wanted to let Yi Juetian go out to prevent him from being spoiled rotten by Qinya and Dong Wang Baiji. If that happens, Yi Juetian would end up dying for a woman. However, now that his mother's illness had recovered, it was a great news. This way, I will be able to go and deal with Wei Chang who had gone missing and Qing Su who had escaped with Dou Fusher. Qinya and the others all felt that Granny doted on Yi Juetian a bit. Yi Hua woke Yi Juetian up, and Yi Juetian who was lying on the bed immediately sat up and looked at his surroundings. Where are Yi and Gong Yu? Yi Juetian hurriedly asked his big brother. Yi Hua sat at the side, and Daji was respectfully pouring tea for her master. Yi went back, and Gong Yu is being imprisoned by me for life. Yi Hua said faintly. When Lu Jing heard how Gong Yu dealt with the matter, she let out a sigh of relief. No matter what, Gong Yu was still half a daughter-in-law, and if she was killed, Lu Jing would still feel a bit bad. Hearing this result, Yi Juetian seemed to have lost all his strength. However, this could also be counted as the best result, right? You can go and take a look, but you are only allowed to go once a month. Yi Hua said coldly, giving the biggest concession he could. After that, he walked out of the bedroom. Because right now, he had to make arrangements for another matter. However, before he left, he called Yi Yuanqing over. Big brother. Yi Yuanqing stood in front of Yi Hua and asked curiously. Yi Hua patted onto Yi Yuanqing's head, have you thought things through during this period of time? Big brother, I think I know what I should do now. Yi Yuanqing's gaze was filled with determination. Very good, if there are difficulties, then ring the bell. There will be a surprise. Thank you, big brother. Yi Hua smiled lightly, when the time comes, Big Brother will congratulate you. My little sister is going to become the Empress of God's realm. Big Brother, even if she becomes an Empress, she will still be Big Brother's little sister. And, there is no need to inform me when you go back. Big Brother is going to be busy during this period of time. Alright, Big Brother, I understand. Yihua nodded his head, then left and called Zhu Tian and Brett over. Right now, the husband and wife had an important mission. Wei Chang's disappearance needed them to investigate. Zhu Tian and Brett quickly received the news, then came before Yihua and shouted out respectfully, "Subordinate. We pay our respects to your honor. I need you two to go and investigate Wei Chang's disappearance. No matter where he is, if he is alive, I want to see him, if he is dead, I want to see his corpse." Yihua said coldly. "We will solemnly obey your honor's decree. Go on, be careful." The other party was even able to get rid of Wei Chang. "You two cannot let your guard down. I have already lost one, I do not wish to lose another." Yihua said lightly. "I completely didn't expect that there would still be such a person in Kangluo continent. Just like how a level 100 god was acting cool in a newbie village, in the end, there was another level 100 god that was also acting cool in the newbie village." Zhu Tian suggested, "Your honor, right now, we are short on manpower, should we consider calling him back? This way, we will be able to help your honor out of your troubles." Yihua knew who Zhu Tian was talking about. "There was still one last subordinate, I will consider it. You two can go and investigate this matter as soon as possible." "Yes. Your honor, we will be leaving first," Zhu Tian said respectfully. Yihua waved his hand, then turned around and walked towards the throne. Yihua slowly closed his eyes and began searching for Envy's whereabouts. After a long while, Yihua slowly opened his eyes, and his gaze was very grave. Envy's aura was blocked off. End of this chapter. Chapter 1172. Was it a coincidence that his three subordinates had disappeared at the same time? Or was it man-made? If it was a coincidence, that would be fine. If it was done by someone, who would have such strength? Yihua's brows were tightly knitted as he sank into deep thought. His eyes were emitting a cold red glow. After a long while, "Yi Zizi!" Yihua shouted. Very quickly, Yi Zizi appeared in the palace and shouted out, "Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Go and bring Envy back to me. No matter what method we use." Yihua said gravely. "Your honor, did Envy disappear?" Yi Zizi raised her head and asked curiously. "Yes, his aura has been blocked." "Your honor, where was the last place he appeared?" Yi Zizi asked. Yihua thought for a moment, "It's in Minglan communal country. Isn't that deity institution's territory?" Yi Zizi stared blankly for a moment. The two little sovereigns were both over there. "Yes. Can I ask Kaiyan to come with me?" "I'm scared to be alone," Yi Zizi said pitifully. Actually, it was just that she was too bored and wanted to find someone to accompany her. Yihua was tickled by Yi Zizi's expression. With a light laugh, he said, "Let Kaiyan go with you. The two of you, be careful." "Yes." At first, Yi Zizi was very happy. What was so fun about the imperial palace? Only going out was fun. Seeing that Yi Zizi had accepted the order and left, Yihua let out a sigh of relief. Basically, all of the main forces have been sent out, and there is still Lai Gu who is sleeping in the valley. This Wushu Empire had his main body overseeing it, so no one dared to come and provoke him. On the other side, Yi Juetian arrived at the entrance of the heavenly prison. The two black-armored warriors stood guard at the side, thinking that they were also locked inside. Behind them was Yi, but they didn't dare to meet Yi. If they had gone and given Yi some courage, how good would that have been? But now, it was too late to say anything. But, because of him, Gongyu had gotten herself into a huge mess, and was now locked up in there as well. He was truly a troublemaker. Big Brother letting him see it once a month was already the most lenient thing he could do. Walking into the heavenly prison, a flight of stairs extended downwards. It was so deep that the bottom could not be seen. A damp aura hit them in the face, and the sound of water dripping made them feel the invasion of loneliness. After arriving at the lowest level, Yi Juetian saw a beautiful figure. She was sitting on the ground, tightly hugging her legs, looking very helpless. Yi Juetian felt that Yi might have looked like this when she was locked up here. When Gongyu heard the faint footsteps, she raised her head and her delicate face immediately lit up with joy. Zhu Tian. Gongyu stood up and grabbed the iron bars with both hands, her face filled with incomparable joy. Yi Juetian had come to see him. How nice. Yi Juetian walked in front of Gongyu and looked at the woman who was crying tears of joy. What did he do to deserve such care from her? Gongyu, I'm sorry. I've caused you trouble, Yi Juetian said in a deep voice. He knew that an apology would not solve the problem. No, absolute heaven, I don't blame you, really, Gongyu said with a faint smile as she wiped away the tears of joy. Yi Juetian took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, Gongyu, since I chose you, I should be responsible for you. Gongyu was immediately stupefied when she heard that. She felt as if she was hearing things. Did absolute heaven just say that he would take responsibility for her? Is this real or fake? Even if you have to stay here for the rest of your life, I will take responsibility for you. Yi Juetian gave a man's promise. Gongyu's expression gradually became tense, and then, she squatted down and started crying loudly. She had left her home and entrusted her heart to this man in front of her. She had been sad before, and now, she was even happier. She finally heard the promise that he gave her. Yi Juetian stretched out his hand and lightly stroked Gongyu's hair. Big Brother promised me that I can come and see you once a month. That's great, absolute heaven. Gongyu tightly held onto Yi Juetian's hand, not willing to let go. However, the current Yi Juetian felt guilty towards Gongyu, and making up for her was greater than love. In Yi Juetian's heart, it was possible that the one he loved would forever only be the dead Yi. Yi Juetian slowly sat on the ground and closely accompanied Gongyu. This woman turned from kind to evil. It was hard to imagine just what she had experienced. All right, absolute heaven, you should quickly go back, come and see me next month. Gongyu squeezed out a smile and said. Of course, she hoped that Yi Juetian would be able to accompany her more. Yi Juetian let out a deep sigh. Gongyu, I will think of a way to make Big Brother let you out. Absolute heaven, you don't have to be anxious. Actually, this place is pretty good, it's quiet. I can also properly reflect on myself. Hearing Yi Juetian's words, Gongyu was still very happy in her heart. With Yi Juetian's words, I will definitely follow him. Yi Juetian looked at the surrounding cold environment. Back then, if Yi was sitting here, just how scared would she be? I'll be leaving first. Yi Juetian stood up and said lightly. Gongyu was reluctant, but she also knew that it was time for Yi Juetian to leave. I won't be by your side, take good care of yourself, eat on time, and rest early. Gongyu shouted towards Yi Juetian's back. Yi Juetian slightly trembled, then turned his head around and said with a smile, Thank you, Gongyu. Gongyu also revealed out a gentle smile. This might be Gongyu's original personality. Looking at Yi Juetian disappearing from her sight, Gongyu slowly sat on the ground and closed her eyes, and a trace of an arc appeared on the corner of her mouth. When Yi Juetian walked out of the prison, he immediately saw his big brother who was not far away from him currently smoking. Big Brother. Yi Juetian called out lightly. Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and passed it over to Yi Juetian. Yi Juetian didn't reject it. In the past, I felt that cigarettes were bad things, but now, I feel that smoking cigarettes is rather comfortable. Let's take a walk. Yi Hua said lightly. Yi Juetian nodded his head. The two brothers walked on the main road of the palace, and the palace maids that they passed by would respectfully call out to them. I feel that if the emperor and the prince were to wear the same clothes, it would be hard to tell who is who. Big brother, before Yi left, did she say anything? Yi Juetian asked. Yi Hua knew that his little brother would ask about this matter. She didn't say anything. Oh. After hearing that, Yi Juetian was a bit disappointed. Little Tian, her name is Meng Yao. In her world, everyone has to address her respectfully. High God Meng Yao, she is stronger than you, stronger by a lot. Yi Hua said faintly, dealing a blow to this little brother of his who still didn't understand anything. If one doesn't experience life and death, one will never grow up. Thinking back, I, the Supreme Overlord, grew up amidst life and death, and I had to face death every day. All of my abilities were obtained for free, and they were all exchanged for with my life. There will never be a free lunch falling from the sky, and even if it does, it won't land on your head. High God Meng Yao. Yi Juetian said in a low voice. In actuality, when Yi Juetian saw Meng Yao today, he already felt that Meng Yao was very strong. Yi Hua flicked away the ash from his cigarette, then said lightly, however, Big Brother still left a trump card for you. Whether or not you are able to redeem Meng Yao will have to depend on your abilities. Big Brother. Yi Juetian was a bit stupefied, and he asked dumbfoundedly. End of this chapter. Chapter 1173. I gave Meng Yao a piece of jade and told her to crush it when something happens. I'll be able to take care of anything. Yi Hua patted onto his little brother's shoulder. Since Gong Yu has already given you compensation, naturally, Meng Yao's compensation will not be lacking. As for whether or not the compensation will be successful, Big Brother doesn't care anymore. If it was a woman he liked, then he would fight for it himself. Big Brother, are you saying that you want me to go and help Meng Yao? Yi Juetian cried out in surprise, as if he saw the light of hope again. Yi Hua nodded his head, that's right. You look so similar to me, and you impersonated as Big Brother to go and solve the problem for me. After that, you then revealed your identity. Don't tell me that Meng Yao wouldn't be touched. F***ck, he's tricking Yi. Not only did he trick his own wife, but he also helped his brother trick others. It was simply terrifying. However, Yi Juetian suddenly thought of something, but Big Brother, I'm so much weaker than Meng Yao. If she can't deal with it, how can I deal with it? A man. If they were content with the status quo, then what was the difference between him and a cripple? Heights were always meant to be climbed. If you don't have the strength, then go cultivate. Women will only attach themselves to powerful men. Excellence is the most important factor in attracting women. She is now Meng Yao, not that stupid Yi. If you want to regain someone's heart, you can't rely on your mouth, you can rely on your strength. Yi Hua's words could be said to have enlightened Yi Juetian. In Yi Juetian's heart, with such a powerful Big Brother, all I have to do is to hug onto his thigh tightly. He had completely neglected his own growth. A person without strength was no different from a salted fish. If I, Yi Juetian, want to be a salted fish, it was also the saltiest one. Big Brother. Teach little brother how to become a strong person. Yi Juetian immediately knelt in front of his big brother and lowered his head. The reason why Yi Hua was waiting for Yi Juetian outside was also because of this matter. My younger brother cannot continue idling around, if not, he will be crippled. Yihua helped his younger brother up. Let's talk while we walk. Yes. Big brother knows a world where there are no humans, only prehistoric divine beasts and prehistoric ferocious beasts. They can take your life in minutes. Yihua said gravely. If I want to become strong, I can only rely on myself to become strong. The interference of external forces will only restrict the growth of my strength. To be honest, Yihua also didn't want his younger brother to go to that place. However, if his younger brother wanted to become stronger, that place was the best world for him. Life and death were decided by a single thought. Every decision he made would affect his life. Those rare ferocious beasts were all found in that world. For gods, rare ferocious beasts were nothing in that world. Everywhere was filled with the smell of death. Now that the Supreme Being was gone, death was only a matter of time. Zhu Tian, if you don't want to go, Big Brother won't blame you. After all, Big Brother doesn't want you to go either. He would rather you go and become a profligate son. Yihua said lightly. He wasn't trying to agitate Yi Juetian, but if his little brother really died, then, as the big brother, he would become a sinner. At the same time, he didn't want to see his brother in such a depressed state. He needed to fight monsters above his level. Only in that kind of environment would he be able to recover quickly. Yihua didn't hope that his younger brother would be able to surpass him. It would be fine as long as his younger brother could be on par with 7 deadly sins. Yi Juetian's gaze was resolute. I'll go. Don't be in a hurry to agree. Think about it for a month. Yihua said faintly. Perhaps, right now, Yi Juetian had agreed to Yihua's request in a moment of hot-headedness. Only when one is calm, would one's judgment be reliable. Yi Juetian didn't say anything as he pondered. Let's go to Mother's place to eat first. Now that Mother's illness has healed, you should accompany her properly. Yihua said lightly. All right, I will. During this period of time, I have neglected Mother too much, I have let Mother down. It's good that you know. Women are important, but family love is also inseparable. If a woman is gone, you can always find another one, but if a mother is gone, then she will truly be gone. Yihua began instilling his own logic into Yihua. If Yihua and the others were to hear what he said, they would definitely be angry and ignore him for a few days. If Yihua were to answer, if your wife and mother fell into the water at the same time, who would you save? Yihua wouldn't hesitate to say that he would save Mother. Today's meal was personally cooked by the 4 daughters-in-law, and it was very sumptuous. It could be considered as celebrating Mother's recovery. Yihua and Yi Juetian walked into the room, and Yihua asked curiously, "Where's Yuan Qing?" Lu Jing said with a slight smile, "Yuan Qing went back, and he asked me to inform you." Yihua nodded his head. It's good that my little sister has thought things through. However, my little sister's side might not be so relaxed. That Dong Wang surname is very mysterious, and it should be related to the royal family. If my little sister wants to seize the throne, the people of the Dong Wang surname will definitely not sit and watch. The bell that I gave to my little sister should be able to deal with this matter. However, is that Dong Wang surname related to Dong Wang Baiji or not? Yihua's intuition told him that there is definitely a connection between the two of them. Yihua took a look at Dong Wang Baiji, who was carrying the dishes. Perhaps she is carrying grievances on her back, and perhaps she doesn't even know about it. This matter can be pushed back a bit. I should first find my 3 subordinates first. This is the most important matter. There isn't any news about Qing Su from Whitebone's side. Seems like I have to go and rummage through my treasury to see if there are any treasures that can be used to find people. Yihua, what are you thinking about? Lu Jing asked curiously. Mother, it's nothing much. How do you feel today? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? Yihua asked caringly. Lu Jing said tenderly, Mother has already recovered, and just now, Yutong and the others said that they are going to bring me on a trip. Trip? Yi Hua looked towards Qin Yutong. Qin Yutong placed the dishes on the table and said tenderly, Brother-in-law, my big sister was just about to tell you about this matter. Yi Hua looked towards Qin Ye. What are you two planning to do again? Qin Ye placed the chopsticks on the table and said tenderly, Yi Hua, it has been a long time since Yutong and I went back to visit our parents, so we are planning to bring Mother and Yuqing to go on a trip. We can also go and visit Mother while we are at it. Oh, is that so? When are you planning to leave? Yi Hua felt that it was fine. Mother and Yuqing have never been to Earth before, and it is quite safe over there. Thus, Yi Hua wasn't too worried. Qin Yutong said happily, we will leave in a few days. Baiji, aren't you going? Yi Hua looked towards the Empress and asked curiously. Donghuang Baiji rolled her eyes at Yi Hua. I have to at least leave one person behind to take care of you, right? If not, there won't be anyone to wash those smelly socks of yours. Ha ha ha. Hearing Donghuang Baiji's teasing, everyone laughed. Yi Hua was helpless. To think that I would say such a thing, Mother wouldn't even scold me. However, it is also good for them to go on a trip, at least I can be a bit more at ease. Alright, let's eat. Little Tian, eat more, you have become thinner these few days. Lu Jing said lightly as she picked up a chicken drumstick and gave it to her son. End of chapter. Chapter 1174. Yi Juetian looked at the chicken drumstick in the bowl and took a deep breath. Mother, I have discussed with Big Brother, I want to become stronger. Lu Jing was taken aback for a moment, then she smiled happily and said, that's a good thing. Little Tian, you've finally grown up. Sure enough, in Lu Jing's eyes, Yi Juetian was like a child that hadn't grown up, and he had matured a bit after going through this matter. Little Tian, where are you going? Qian Yuqing asked curiously. It's a very dangerous place, Yi Juetian said solemnly. When Lu Jing heard this, she frowned. Dangerous place? How dangerous? Are the people there very fierce? Yi Hua put down his chopsticks and said lightly, Mother, there is no one there, there are only ancient divine beasts and ancient ferocious beasts. What? Lu Jing exclaimed. Yi Juetian's gaze was resolute. Mother. I want to become stronger. I want to become a real man and shoulder responsibility. Lu Jing did not say anything and slowly put down her chopsticks. Everyone looked at Lu Jing. Little Tian, you've really grown up. Mother is very pleased. Lu Jing gently held her son's hand and said with relief. In actuality, Lu Jing didn't want her youngest son to go out and take risks from the bottom of her heart. Yi Hua had just returned, and Xiao Tian had already gone out to take risks. As a mother, she only hoped that her children could live happily. However, they were all men, and they carried the family's glory on their shoulders. Little Tian, Mother supports you. Lu Jing smiled gently. Upon hearing that, Yi Hua went into a slight daze. Even I am a bit unable to hold myself back, and yet, my mother actually agreed to it straightforwardly. It was indeed a little surprising. Qian Yuqing revealed a surprised expression. Her mother actually let little Tian take the risk. Yi Juetian tightly held his mother's hands and resolutely said, Mother, I will not disappoint you. I will make my mother proud of me. Big brother and sisters-in-law. And Mother is looking forward to the day you return. My family's little Tian has finally become a man. Lu Jing caressed Yi Juetian's hair lightly, she was incomparably happy. Yi Juetian looked towards Yi Hua, Big brother, I have decided. Yi Hua nodded his head, then said gravely, before you go, do a month's worth of preparations first. If there is anything that you need, just tell me, big brother, and make sure to bring everything that you need. And, big brother, I understand. Yi Juetian knew that this time, he had a slim chance of survival, so he had to handle this carefully. Yi Hua was also very gratified. After experiencing this matter, my younger brother has also grown up. Similarly, I have also learned a lot of things from this matter. After the meal, Yi Juetian went back to make preparations. At night, Yi Hua called his 4 wives and prepared to hold a family meeting. The main contents of the meeting were a few points. Yi Hua sat on the main seat, and his 4 wives sat on both sides of him. Holding on to the teacup, Yi Hua blew on the tea passionately and took a sip. A lot of bad things have happened recently, and I'm in a bad mood. That's why I want to apologize to you. Yi Hua said in a low voice. He knew that these women were also feeling wronged. As a man, one must know when to yield and when to stand tall, no matter when, it would be the same. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji snorted. You still know how to admit your mistake. You didn't do anything wrong, how could you have done anything wrong? It's all our fault. The king of blame shifting. Through this matter, I have also gained some enlightenment and reflected on myself. Yi Hua placed down the teacup and said faintly. Brother-in-law, this is a good thing. Qin Yutong was Yi Hua's fan, and she followed Yi Hua unconditionally. At this time, Qian Yuqing also said softly, Yi Hua, don't blame yourself too much. Adding everything together, your judgment won't be that accurate. Qian Yuqing was about the same as Qin Yutong, she was very lenient towards Yi Hua. However, Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji weren't that easy to talk to. How could they not know about Yi Hua's character? After talking for a long time, they still didn't get to the main topic. Next, my work will be shifting to finding Wei Chang and the others. It's good that you two are leaving for now. After pausing for a moment, Yi Hua continued to ask, Qinya, when are you two planning to leave? Qinya let out a breath and said lightly, after discussing with mother today, we have decided to leave tomorrow. What, so soon? Yi Hua was a bit surprised. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly, mother seems to be reluctant to part with little Tian and doesn't want to see that kind of scene of separation. Thus, she plans to leave in advance. Yi Hua felt that he was very similar to his mother, he was also the kind of person who didn't like to be separated. That's good too, after you two go there, have some fun and accompany mother to relax. Yi Hua said with a slight smile. Mother has worked hard for her entire life, it's about time for her to enjoy herself. As for little Tian, it won't be that easy for anything to happen to him. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji nodded their heads. Yi Hua took a look at the night sky outside and said faintly, it's already quite late, let's rest early. The corners of Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji's mouth twitched. After saying that, this is probably his main purpose, right? Qin Yutong revealed out a naughty smile. Qian Yuqing is as pure as a piece of paper. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji took a look at each other, then immediately prepared to run away. Trying to run away. Yi Hua snorted coldly, then immediately threw out 2 shackles. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji stopped in midair, then slowly moved towards the room at the back. Yi Hua! You pervert! What are you trying to do? Let me go. We still haven't forgiven you. Yi Hua said faintly, Yutong, close the door. Alright brother-in-law, wow, are we going to do something exciting tonight? This feels great. Qin Yutong seemed to be even more excited than Yi Hua. Qian Yuqing still didn't know what was going on and asked Qin Yutong. Qin Yutong said in a low voice, and Qian Yuqing's beautiful face immediately became bright red, just like a honey peach. Yutong, hold down your big sister for me. Alright, Qin Yutong. You traitor. Yuqing, help me hold Baiji down. Ah, Yi Hua, that isn't good, right? Not obedient, huh? Oh, I'll do it. Dong Huang Baiji glared at Yi Hua. How can you let Yuqing do such a thing? Shameless. You will definitely be gone for a few months, so your husband plans to comfort you tonight. Don't struggle, just enjoy it. Yi Hua said lightly. This was the purpose of today. Ever since Yuqing came over, I have never had such an exciting time. Qin Yutong shouted out loudly, brother-in-law, quickly come, I have already stripped big sister naked, quickly come and enjoy. Qin Yutong, see if I don't slap you traitor, to actually treat big sister like this. Brother-in-law, quickly come and shut big sister's mouth. Yutong, you are still the sensible one. Yi Hua was very gratified. I didn't take this sister-in-law for nothing. When Yi Hua woke up the next day, Dong Huang Baiji was the only one left beside Yi Hua. The other three had already left. He looked at his empress. She had been bullied last night, and tears had come out of her eyes. How tragic. End of chapter. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.